about that time. And so we drafted and crafted a new structure which we discussed extensively with the Players Association, who agreed. And it was only, we're talking about from March to October the next year that we were able to implement such a system.
You doubled the number of first-class matches. You doubled the number of first-class matches.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, and
introduced retainers from 15 players to 120.
Yeah.
Plus women. Now we had coaches full-time, physiotherapists, administrators, and we really expanded the sporting region.
I mean, looking at the cricketing reason, is it more important to you that West Indies win the Wisdom Trophy than winning a T20 tournament?
No, absolutely. And again, that's you get a great feeling when you win, and like the championships we would have won in 2016. But that Wisdom Trophy last year gave me the greatest joy of my administration. Again, because we were proved that if we adopted first world standards, we could compete with the best in the world. And that's what we were out to prove. With our resources, what we know we have, we can compete with the best in the world. And that's my advocacy for all the teams around the world. They be given an opportunity to compete. It may not be Test cricket, but I think all the countries, 104 countries that participate, if given enough time and opportunity, they can all their post directly.
Now, Dave, bringing the story up to present, you've been reported as taking quite seriously a proposal from the United States Cricket Association to stand to be next chairman of the ICC. How serious are you about that endeavour?
Well, I'm serious enough that I've written to the West Indies to ask for the nomination, and I've written to as of today, the former chairman of the ICC, the deputy chairman, signaling my intention and for their support. As you'll be the first to know, to hear this from me, that when the chairman resigned in 2017, when his resolutions were about to fail, I was the architect that basically negotiated to keep him in office and to ensure that the resolutions went through. And they did that because it benefited West Indies and the smaller countries tremendously. I wasn't about to see that fail at that time.
How did it benefit West Indies and the smaller countries?
Well, our allocations was moved from 84 million to 130 million. This was the reversal of the big three. So we moved from our proposal of distribution was 84 million the first round, and in the iteration done by Shasha, we had moved to 130 million.
But you're on record as saying that currently,
130 million.
right. You're on record recently as saying that the reason for your candidacy is that all the events, all the audience, and all the biggest economies are now concentrated back into the big three. So how has that come about? And what do you think should be done to change that, to make it more fair for all test playing countries?
What has come about for the longest while has been there. Other countries get token events from time to time. But again, we're not. Let me just make it very clear. Anything that we try to do, it's about growing the sport, growing it for everybody. So not there trying to advocate to take away events from anywhere. But I believe that there is another way to make events more profitable by having less and bigger events. And also spreading it across the world.
Yeah, you said that.
There are five we call them geographies in cricket, as there is in football. You have the Americas, Europe, Asia, Pacific, and we have Africa. And so, if you're going to grow the sport, then you need to be figuring out on all the geographies how we effectively do that with all our events, and not just concentrating on growing it in one geography. And in 2007, 2011, Canada was in the World Cup. Where's Canada as a force today? So we believe that the Americas has been neglected, and not any fault of anybody. Again, because pretty much the candidates have been on the Asian side, and so Asia has grown phenomenally. And also Europe, where it's concerned.
Do you think it's fair?
Not so in Africa and the Americas. That is a concern. So how can we get that moving in the right direction? But is there another way than just keep adding more world events? The most profitable cricket now is your domestic cricket. So why are we trying to play more international cricket as well as all the domestic cricket that's being played? Is there another way to actually get more value for everybody? Not necessarily for countries, but more players. More players are playing, more opportunities, then the economics and the economy of cricket grows. And so that's my focus.
So when you say fewer events, but more profitable events, I think is what you're saying, how would you achieve that?
Absolutely. How many World Cups does FIFA have?
One.
Exactly. And how much money does FIFA gross in a World Cup?
A lot.
And that's what I'm saying. So by having a T20 every year and a Champions Trophy and a World Cup, what are we doing?
It's too much.
But what you're doing as well is you're preventing small economies like West Indies from hosting matches. And remember, I just told you, in our economic structure, we don't make money when we travel.
When did that change? That changed when your previous West Indian president, Shai Hope, stood down in 1998.
That's correct. And Dan Meyer became the chairman.
And then it changed.
The economics changed. So it used to be that each country would negotiate a tour fee, was called, to tour your country, and we would all reciprocate that. Then in 1998, we went to a fixed fee for a game, and that fee became a nominal fee that was just accounted for in your accounts as a receivable and a payable. And we would net out when the tours were reciprocated.
Obviously, I mean, what springs from that is how can England, India, and Australia justify a system where they benefit so much more than countries they're playing against in the same league?
Well, I would answer that by saying, why does the WTO exist? And all these organizations. It's called globalization. And unless somebody stands up and says something, continue.
Well, it's partly globalization. It's also seems to be a legacy of the International Cricket Council.
Well, that was Dave talking to Dave. Dave Brook talking to Dave Cameron, the former chief executive of West Indies Cricket, who is now, we believe, standing for the ICC chairmanship. Although I was reading a piece yesterday, interestingly enough, that said they hadn't even sorted out how people should actually be put forward for that job. So we're a long way from finding a new ICC chairman. Interesting stuff. Interesting also on the pitch. Well, to say that, West Indies have advanced very confidently to 118 for 2. They've lost only Alzari Shows, who we've had it quite interestingly. Made 32. Shai Hope is at the wicket with Craig Brathwaite now. Part of me thinks that I should have the optimism of Knackle from before the start of the lunch interval. The other part of me thinks that I should invoke my inner Monty Python to say this test has died, it has ceased to be, it is an X-test. Unless, of course, West Indies do something stupid or England do something miraculous. I have alongside me for the first time today none other than Gary Naylor. Hello, Gary.
Yes, good afternoon. I have some optimism, I must say. Test match cricket has seen a lot of 10 wickets in a session over the last few years, and there are 5 sessions to go here, 4 of which I think are elongated sessions. So all is not lost, but obviously if England are not in a position to enforce the follow-on. That makes life much more difficult. Hence, I'm looking for England to really attack. Fielders round the bat, all the little inside edges onto the pad, and already we've got no short leg.
Exactly, 2 slips and a very fine gully, I would say, as in comes Curran. Oh, right up there in the block hole with a ball that swung into Brathwaite, who's now moved to 41. And he dug it out very skillfully, actually. We'll jingle up the people taking part.
Is he a batter or bowler? Sam Curran. What's his distinguishing feature? Sam Curran. He starts from Zimbabwe. Sam Curran. And he's beloved by Liz Yates. Sam Curran.
Not just beloved of Liz Yates, we quite love him too. In comes Curran, bowls a ball shorter of leg, tucked away confidently enough by Brathwaite into the onside, and they run through for the first single after lunch. Out there with bats in their hands are, well, one of these fellows.
Shai Hope, Shai Hope, Shai Hope, Shai Hope.
Shai Hope giving hope to the West Indies. Joe Root looked deep in thought as if he wanted to be somewhere else. Onto the back foot goes Hope to a shorter ball, and he turns it into the onside. There is no run. The deficit is now 350. England need to take 8 wickets for 149 to enforce the follow-on. Jules, can they do it? Where do you stand in the optimism-pessimism spectrum?
As a Villa supporter, I'm always optimistic, but I actually think it's a massive draw all over it.
Got massive draw written. I think that's a very good description. Massive draw.
Massive.
Bowls looking to get some in-swing from a full delivery. Doesn't really do too much, and rather scuttles through to Butler. And there is no run. Now, which of you is actually on the tweets today? I don't know which one of you is on the tweets at this moment.
I don't think it's me.
It's not you, Gary. Good. Thank God.
Yeah, I would have had it up on the phone half an hour ago, panicking about technical matters.
Good. I can see that you look calm. You look like a becalmed man. So obviously you don't have tweets in front of you, or Crick Tracker, who we shall talk about at the end of this over. Here comes Curran up to the wicket, bowls, brings it back into Hope, who flicks it away into the onside. Mid-wicket feels there is no run.
I cannot understand why there isn't a man either at silly point or at short leg. Curran is swinging the ball in. A little inside edge onto the pad that pops up is just going to fall to no one here. And surely that it puts it in the batsman's mind as well. I mean, I just cannot understand how fields look the same, whether the follow-on is 400 away or 100 and something.
Covering up in defence this time, Hope. Another good defensive shot. No hint of an inside edge there. The ball goes back to the bowler, and there is no run. 119 for 2. I'm kind of with you. There is definitely less swing than there was for the first 2 days of this match, which has hamstrung England a little bit. To the extent that they're looking at Dom Bess as being a potential match winner if no one else can find a way through. We also look back to Roston Chase getting 5 wickets for the West Indies, bowling very economically, I thought, and bowling very well through 40 plus overs. So Best may have a lot of opportunity this afternoon. Tea will be taken 15 minutes later than normal at 3:55, so we've got a slightly extended session here, and there's no sign of Best to start with. After the interval, it's straight back to the most senior of England's bowlers, Stuart Broad.
What would make Broad walk?
If his stumps were knocked down,
What would make Broad walk?
caught 5 feet off the ground,
What would make Broad walk?
if he trod on his
What
stumps,
would make Broad walk?
if God was one of the
What
arms,
would make Broad walk?
Broad walk.
What Broad?
He's bowling to a man who will jingle up after this ball. It's a full, wide-ish delivery, which gives that batsman the opportunity to lean into it and stroke, but he does not beat the man at extra cover. It is this man with the bat in his hands.
The spelling is strong.
Tell me if I spelled your name all wrong. I wrote it down with a C before. Now is it 2 G's? I wanna be sure.
Full overpitched, in fact, on middle and leg, and Brathwaite does lean into that one very effectively. He sends it as straight as he can through mid-on and picks up 4 runs for it.
Hard to spell. Now I've got
All that music should tell you that Brathwaite is the man facing, and the fact that he's hitting a 4. So he's off to a decent start after lunch and growing with confidence. Made a very nice 65 in the first innings of the first test. And he was beginning to look confident when Stokes got him out. We haven't seen any Stokes today, which is curious. Full on leg stump and clipped. There is a man at backward point, Ollie Pope, and they get straight to him. The throw comes in quickly, and there is no run. 86 miles an hour from Stuart Broad. Stuart Broad looking for his first wicket of the summer. None for 39. He's into his 12th over now. Apart from short legs for hopefully a bit of swing that Curran might be able to get, what else can Joe Root do here, Gary? I'm sure you have some theories. We'll come back to that after this ball. As Broad approaches again into Brathwaite for short of a 50, and he leaves this one outside the off stump. Gary, I'll put you on the spot, but what else would you do?
Well, what I would have done right at the start of the day's play, rather at the start of the test match, is I would have looked at the number of right-handers in Indies lineup. I believe there are 10 of them, and I would have played Jack Leach because I think slow left arm is a much greater weapon when you're looking for wickets. Dom Bess is a fine cricketer. I like him very much, but I do think Jack Leach is much better against the particular lineup that they have here. He's not available.
This is clipped up to mid-on by Brathwaite, and there is no run.
So I would attack with the spinner. I'd have a short leg in all the time for the pacers, not least just to put the batsman off. And I would have 4 men round the bat for Dominic Bess until the follow-on is saved, and then they can change the tactic. But if edges drop not to hand because the fielding isn't attacking enough, I don't think that's acceptable with the series in the balance, or rather the Wisdom Trophy in balance.
Forward comes Brathwaite, allows this to glide off the face of the bat down into the gully region. There is no run. It's 123 for 2. Have we got anyone professing massive draw or big England win on Twitter?
Not at the moment. There's a few just sort of discussions going on from what we were discussing before lunch. So that was with regards to the return to crowds coming to watch cricket. Harit Badshah on the Rum has said the notion that crowds should be allowed at any event this side of 2021 is idiotic and a denial of reality. I know here in Ireland some sporting bodies aren't happy being restricted to only 200 people, including players and staff, but fundamentally sport is less important than public health, so people have to accept that means for the time being.
Yes, onto the back foot goes Hope as Sam Curran starts new overs. A bit too short at the moment, Sam Curran. And that's not a comment on his height, that's the length of his bowling. I do think they have got to bowl a little bit more full if they want to get or take anything from the atmospheric conditions, get it to swing a little bit. That may mean you go for a few drives and you give away a few 4s, but I think it also is the only way of getting yourself a wicket. He's in again, bowls to Hope. That's a good ball, probing around his middle and off stump, and he defends into the onside. There is no run. I don't think crowds should come back. I mean, the notion of filling up a football ground by October sounds to me like madness of the highest order.
100%. You know, your health's far more important than a game of cricket. Look after yourselves. We've got cricket to a certain extent. We can watch it. There are various ways of watching and listening to it. Do that.
Absolutely. Curran looks for swing here by pushing it wide outside the off stump, but it doesn't come back at all and goes across the right-hander into the hands of Jos Buttler. Shai Hope is into his 61st first-class match, an average of 36.39. I think I caught a tweet going by from our friends at the Caribbean Cricket Podcast that was quite damning of the Shai Hope defensive technique. as opposed to an attacking ability to drive well. In comes Curran again, bowls to it. Oh, he's got a little edge to that one. I think he might have done. He has. He's got an edge to that. We have doomed Shai Hope. He is on his way. He's not going to review that. It was pushed across him, but it was close to the off stump. He had to play, and Butler has done the rest. I just want to say, massive win! Potential now that Curran has taken that wicket. 123 for 3. And it was a clever ball. It was a scrambled seam. It was even looking to me as if it was like a little off-cutter, the way it was rotating, as we saw it in slow motion. And they just have played inside the line as that nibbled a little bit. And actually quite a clear edge when you see the replay, but it didn't look quite so obvious to the naked eye. It was really the reaction of Butler that made me think, hang on, this could be it. Well, what do we say now? What do we say? Do we need a short leg? We do for a new batsman, surely, Gary.
We need the whole lot for the new batsman. That's Sam Curran's game, really. That's why his record in England is absolutely outstanding, is that he doesn't bowl the big booming swingers that you see from Jimmy Anderson in particular. But he asks a question with every ball, because every ball's nibbling in a little bit off the seam, swinging a little bit off the seam, swinging a little bit in, or it's holding its line, or maybe even just offering to go away. He has the odd bouncer that comes onto you a little bit quickly. He does bowl a lot of full balls that get driven, but that's a price you've got to pay. But he just keeps asking questions all the time. I really cannot see how England cannot play Sam Curran in English Test matches. It might be a bit different overseas, but in England he has to play.
100%.
That's an interesting one, actually. Actually, when you see that ball from behind, you do see the deviation off the pitch. Very, very clever bowling from the Sam Curran.
It was definitely a cutter.
It was a cutter. Out into the middle comes this man, I believe.
Who's coming up next? And is he any good? Well, he's not bad. Shamar, you know him. Not really. He ain't bad.
First ball is left alone outside the off stump. I was just beginning to enjoy that jingle. Can we have it again? I've not heard it before.
Who's coming up next? And is he any good? Well, he's not bad. Shamar, you know him. Not really. He ain't bad. He ain't bad. Shamar, you know him. Shamar Brooks.
That might be my one of my favourite new jingles. In comes Sam Curran. Final ball of the over. Shamar Brooks leaves this alone outside the off stump, but it's fired across him. A little bit too wide, but success for England. Early after lunch, the third over, and it is Sam Curran who's got the breakthrough. 2 for 24 are his figures from 10 overs. As Jules and Gary say, how can you leave him out in England?
And New Zealand.
And New Zealand. And where else might he do quite well? I don't know. Scotland. And never leave Sam Curran out in Scotland.
Ireland, Hendo.
Ireland too. Yes, good point. All good points. Any more tweets?
Yeah, Leah is with us. She says Gary is right. The omission of the Taunton Tendulkar is indefensible. Taunton Tendulkar is bloody great. Take a bow for that.
I did see that tweet, and I wonder who's he talking about. I couldn't think for a moment. Anyway, Broad will continue as my television goes into backup mode. He's in, the bowls to Brathwaite. Hits him on the pad, worth a shot, maybe just outside the line. He's been implored to give that out, Michael Goff, by Stuart Broad. He will want the review there, but I have a feeling perhaps that he got outside the line. It was close, but I'm guessing that Michael Goff has got this right. If this is another breakthrough for England, then it's been a wonderful start for them after the break.
That was out. That was definitely out. Was that definitely out? I don't know.
Broad now, his first wicket of the summer. He's hanging in the balance. He got it to move. Oh, I don't know. He's hit the back pad just on the knee roll. Might be a little bit of a height problem as well, having been given not out. It may only just be clipping. I don't think there's any inside edge. Ultra edge suggests not. And this is the thing with Brathwaite, he does get a bit front on when he's defending. And this could be... Oh, he's just got it. I read it right. It's umpire's call on impact by an absolute wafer. And that is an extraordinary escape for brave Brathwaite and bad news for England. Based on the impact, I think England don't lose the review there, so that's at least one thing.
I'm not just saying this because it's an England review, because I'd say it whoever was reviewed, but I really do not understand that. The law says you have to be hit in line, and he was hit in line. There's no predictive element there. He was hit in line.
Here comes Broad again. Bowls. Oh, and he's gone past the outside edge this time. Oh, he's got his gander up now, has Stuart Broad. He fired that one through full and quick. Although the speed gun says only 82 miles an hour. It looked quicker than that to me. And just a little torrid time this for Brathwaite.
This is the best thing that could have happened, because Broad will be so hacked off now that he'll absolutely fire it in. The problem with Broad, he switches off, and when you really piss him off, he then starts going for it. It's going to be great, good fun this over.
Yeah, that's what you got to do with Broad. You just keep winding him up, basically. Yeah. Here he comes again. Past umpire Goff, and he hits him on the pad again. He wants this one. The umpire's not going to give this one either. And Broad says, "Why? Why are you doing this to me? It's just not fair. I haven't got a wicket all summer. I was left out of the first test. The DRS timer is winding down to 4 seconds. 3, 2, 1. No. Well, I don't know. I wonder whether fatherhood for the second time has hardened up Joe Root, as he has denied Stuart Broad the review on that occasion. I think he's right to. I think it got a bit high. It's above the yes, again, the back pad or back leg, and this is probably going to be proved to be out. No, it's missing. It's going over the top. It was straight enough. It's going over the top of middle stump. So well done, Joe Root. In comes Broad, full again, and just to add insult to injury, he presents the full face of the bat, drives it down the right hand side of the pitch, and will pick up 4 runs. 50 for Brathwaite.
2, 3, 4.
50 runs, you're 50 runs. Well done, well done, well done, well done. 50 runs, you're 50 runs. The job is only just begun.
I just want to expand upon my point. I'm well aware that the protocol talks about half a ball.
Another beautiful shot from Brathwaite. It was right up in the block hole again, and he drove it really well through an unguarded mid-on area for insult to injury. Broad and 4 more. Yes, Gary.
So my beef really is not with the umpires. My beef is with the protocol, because this half ball, I just don't think it's quite right. We might see a Wimbledon championship decided by Hawkeye by a millimetre call on a line call.
He's in again. He decides to drop the length a little bit shorter this time, and it's left alone outside the off stump. So a lot happening in that over.
Yeah, so quite why we need to have something which has no predictive element to it to have a half ball being the case, because I mean the law, when I was umpiring, the law was clear. You know, if you hit in line, and that meant hit with a ball that's in line, not with half a ball that's in line or anything else. So, we can go round the houses on this. I understand that it might get a bit boring, but it's something I think they should look at. The technology is working pretty well in cricket. It saved the Test match in some ways at the Ageas Bowl when the umpires were very rusty, and I just think we've got to be more competent about it now.
Okay, Curran will start a new over, his 11th. He's in to bowl to Shamar Brooks, and he does get a bit of swing, and he defends out on the offside, but not totally in control of the shot. 131 for 3. West Indies trail by 338. England really need to rip through them now. That wicket of Brathwaite would have really given them a lift had it happened. 2 wickets in 4 overs after lunch, but they've still got to probe away and hope that the decisions go their way. Anyway, here comes Curran again into Brooks down the leg side, clipped on its way. It had movement, it had fullness, and it felt the sweet centre of Shamar Brooks' bat. 4 runs.
There's not one boy for me, I must have 2 or 3, I need 4.
Yeah, go on, Gary.
I was going to raise a point, and we saw it in the long shot there. I mean, Old Trafford obviously has a kind of emotional resonance for me. It's where I first saw Test match cricket some 43 years ago now, and it means a lot to me. But the ground's development is ugly beyond words. I mean, it is a complete mess. I know that they're trying to make it a kind of multi-event venue there's a lot of gigs there and stuff like this. But is any cricket ground been absolutely uglified, for want of a better word, than Old Trafford? The pavilion is now non-existent. You can't see it. These hideous buildings, it's all higgledy-piggledy. It's just a total mess.
Outside the off stump, Brooks goes across. It's a little bit shorter, and he lifts the bat out of the way as the ball seems to rise as it goes through to Butler. 135 for 3. What did you have for lunch, Gary?
I was madly rushing with both bringing the shopping in, getting all that sorted out, and then cooking something for later. So, but I do a final over at the test at the end of each test, and I am going to write about just what a mess Old Trafford is. Shorter,
flicked into the mid-on area by Brooks, who I was quite impressed with in his first innings at the Ageas Bowl. Didn't really have a chance to get going. The second was out too quickly, but I quite like the look of him. First time I've seen him. He's 4 not out. And
he's 31, so he's played a bit.
He's been around. I'll come back to that shortly, since you bring it up. Curran in again. He's right in behind this one and defends it down more or less in front of him, and there is no run. I did have a note about him that I wanted to
just while you're looking for that, Hendo, we should just say that there's been no change of field whatsoever for the new batsman to Curran.
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to do. I don't know what that's going to do to you, Gary. You're going to explode.
I think
I am. Explode very shortly.
The Wisdom Trophy is in the balance here, and we're just letting it slide through our fingers.
He's in again, bowls to Brooks. Good probing delivery, threatening middle stump, threatening his pads, and he defends into the onside, and there is no run. You're absolutely right. He was a World Cup under-19 captain in Malaysia in 2008. And he got dropped by Barbados in 2012 after scoring only 150 from his debut in 2008, which is extraordinary. Since returning to the Barbados side in 2015, he scored 723 more 50s and has even captained the island when Jason Holt has not been available. And you would never guess that I said that off the top of my head completely, would you?
We'll just call you David Brooks.
Just call me David Brooks. Call me Tony Bishop. Call me Nigel Notes Henderson. 135 for 3. It's Curran out of the attack. Broad is in, and he bowls to Brathwaite. And Brathwaite, having had a couple of close shaves in the previous over from Broad, is hit back well. He takes a single as he clips this into the onside, and the score goes to 136 for 3.
Old Bart at Play is on Twitter. He said, surely everyone should listen to Gurda Cricket, because unless my ears deceive me, it sounds the same with or without the crowd. If you want the fresh air, go and sit on the mountain and pour a can of beer in plastic glass.
Yeah, exactly. You want the air, go and sit on a mountain. Goodness sake, people. 136 for 3. Brathwaite 55. Brooks is on 4. And of course, Brooks was also the man who picked up 100 in the test against Afghanistan at the end of last year in the West Indies. Here is Broad into Brooks, and Brooks, I think, plays inside the line of that. There was a little bit of a movement away, but I think he just kept the bat inside that. No flamboyant Steve Smith leave for the likes of Brooks, so that makes me even more fond of him. And there's Joe Root. He's just thinking. Is he growing the beard? Is it really? Should Joe Root grow a beard? I think that's a question we should put out to the Twitter sphere, because I'm not sure it makes him look rough and rugged enough. Anyway, here comes Broad. None for 48. When's he going to get a wicket? Flicked into the onside. Lovely shot by Brooks. And that races away to mid-wicket for 4 runs.
And if you kids can't listen, then you bound to see the way you get shot for crossing a boundary.
Yeah, he's had a couple of gifts as Brooks to get himself going on his legs. He obviously likes it around there. And,
you asked earlier whether Joe Root's second-time fatherhood, whether that would have any effect on him. I recall my days, early days of being a second-time father, and if he's anything like me, he'll actually be asleep, standing up with his eyes open.
Oh, that's what it could be. Who's going to take over? It's going to have to be Ben Stokes, isn't it? This is another full ball. But Shamar Brooks plays that quite confidently off his middle and leg stumps up to mid-on, and there is no run. Yeah, well, I've never been a father, and from what I hear, it's not a great gig.
It's a bit like batting, really. You've got to get through the first session. If you get through the first session, it gets a bit easier, and then you can cash in later on.
You're going to sell your kids. You sell the second born. That's what it should be. Broad in bowls outside the off stump, left alone by the batsman, and through the keeper it goes.
Well, tomorrow morning, 2 of them will be working at 8:30, and I'll be asleep. So make of that what you will.
No, I think that you've got things right at last, I would say. 143. There is a man back at deep square leg, Ollie Pope, I think. So whether there's going to be a bouncer at any point, we wait to see. It may, of course, be the bluff. As Broad comes in to complete his 14th over. Runs past Goff, the umpire. Bowls a shorter ball, but certainly couldn't be described as a bouncer. It's defended on the back foot by Brooks, and that is the end of the over. 140 for 3. Brathwaite 55, Brooks 8, and tweets from Jules.
Yeah, we've got Muttley back with us after lunch. He says, "What? Back after a lie down during the lunch break. Nice to see another wicket has fallen today." Diana Patterson says, "Gary, boring. What's this?" Lots of question marks going on there.
Very much so, very much so.
Durban Oki is...
Yep, go on.
No, Durban Oki has just said, "Isn't Old Trafford still under development? Sylvia is very subjective." And MJ Noster says, "Rough and rugged, enough for what, Hendo?" Referring to Root's beard.
I don't know. For putting your baby to sleep. Maybe you'd be terrified if you were a small child and you saw Root looming over you. In comes Curran. Left arm over the wicket to Brathwaite. Brathwaite confidently tucks this away on the onside. He's gone through for 1. Pope has chased well, slid, and got into position to throw, which tells Brathwaite that a second is not on. And the score moves to 141 for 3.
At the moment, just to make an observation, this is kind of Andy Zaltzman type question, but in the previous over, we had Broad bowling to Brathwaite and Brooks. Each player's surname started with the first 2 letters, BR, of course. That can't have happened too frequently in Test match cricket, can it?
I don't know. It's a good question, isn't it? Now that's fluently played, it appeared to me, by Brooks. Lent into a wider ball from Curran. It required Rory Burns to do some quite athletic fielding in the covers to prevent it getting away for 4. Brooks looks in quite good touch, doesn't he?
I should qualify that by saying I'm looking here for 3 separate names. It's, there must be Patel to Patel in India, and of course Mohammeds and so on in Pakistan and Bangladesh, perhaps, and other countries. But for
Curran bowls, and this one's on the line of leg stump, and Brooks just tucks it away to the fielder there in the ring on the onside.
But for 3 separate names, each to start with the first 2 letters, to be the 3 protagonists. No, you can't have 3 protagonists, but to be the 3 players involved as 2 batsmen and a bowler for an over. I think that must be pretty rare.
And also pretty niche.
Yeah, pretty niche.
Pretty niche. You can listen to us on any tolerably well-appointed mountain, apparently, I'm told, by Knackle. I don't know if he's tried that himself. Curran in bowls. Slower ball, I thought, there. Brooks waits for it and shows command of the 4 defensive, pushing up to mid-off. And there is no run. Anyone else like the look of Brooks? Is it just me? I like the look of him. He may be 31. He may have had to wait for his chance. but he looks solid. It looks like he's quite an attractive, fluent player. And I bring you news that Ben Stokes appears to be warming up. We haven't seen him today. Suggests perhaps there may be a little injury niggle, but it looks now as if he will get his opportunity. Curran in again, short, and Brooks goes back and dismissively flicks this down into the gully, and there is no run.
I think he looks like he's got plenty of shots, but the mark of a Test match batsman is not how many shots they play, but how long they're there to play the shots, of course. And whether, a bit like Jermaine Blackwood was for a long time, whether he has so many shots that he's going to hole out to mid-on or something, remains to be seen. But certainly Blackwood looked to have a kind of Damascene conversion in the last Test and batted so beautifully. So perhaps Brooks will follow Blackwood's line.
Round the wicket now, and onto the leg stump, clipped, but this time doesn't get it past Ollie Pope, who just moves to his right to field, but it's coming off the middle of the bat quite regularly from Brooks. That is the end of the over. It's 141 for 3. Jules?
Been pretty quiet after lunch. I think people are tucking into their Sunday roasts. I am going to pick up on something that Gary was talking about, which is test grounds. Now, over the lunch period, they were showing Sabina Park, and everyone bangs on about Cape Town and Newlands and the nice mountains. No one ever talks about Sabina Park. It's a lovely little test ground. You've got Blue Mountains in the background. It's a really, I don't know how many people have been there from listening out there. It's a really lovely ground, and actually a lot of touring fans don't tend to pick out the Jamaica Test. I'm not understood why it never gets cited as being a nice ground, but welcome to have that debate on Twitter if people want to have a slightly rogue call for interesting test grounds that is not Newlands. So I'm opening up that debate to get everybody moving on Twitter.
No, we hate Newlands. It's so bloody nice. That's its own. That's its problem. Anyway, there's going to be
Castle Brewery in the way. That's a problem. We've got a lovely mountain and then a bloody great big brewery.
Yes, indeed. Well, anyway, we are going to have that change of bowling that I talked about. Broad, who nearly got Brathwaite out in the last over, has been taken off, and Ben Stokes is coming into the attack for the first time today. It has got a little bit cloudier over Old Trafford. We'll jingle him up after this first ball. He's running in to bowl to Brathwaite. And he's short of a length, and he could have been caught first ball from Ben Stokes. It's flashed at by Brathwaite. His bat was miles away from his body, and it's flown through the slips. Have to see a replay to see whether that was a potential catch or whether it just evaded all the grasping hands. But it was not a shot he was in control of. It's gone, just wide of the diving Crawley, and a little bit of an escape for Brathwaite there. We always talk about Ben Stokes, the man who comes on and can change things, can make something happen. He very nearly did. We will jingle him up, not after that ball, but after the next one, because I imagine he's ready to bowl it. Now I see the problem. Jovi's got 2 caps on. It was 4, by the way. Yes, I should have mentioned that. This one is turned into the leg side towards square leg, and there is no run. 145 for 3. Yay!
I got out Ben Stokes, and he called me a if I'd only seen that Ben Stokes was so mean.
Here he is. Stokes bowls to Brathwaite. Brathwaite gets onto the front foot and pushes up to mid-on. There is no run.
The arm looked up and said, "You angry redhead, you'll get fined again."
Anyway, that's one of our lengthier jingles, which takes most of an over to finish. Here comes Stokes again, short, and rather horrible shot from Brathwaite there. He tried to imitate Gordon Granger by lifting his front leg, but I'm afraid Brathwaite just hasn't got the Greenwich flamboyance, and in the end it maybe kept a little bit low, dived a little bit, and he shanked it out on the offside rather unattractively.
I mean, I know it's something that the old timers go on and on about, and I was prepared to give it a chance, but I really think this 2 slips, a gap and a 4th slip, you just see far too often the ball going through the gaps where they try and get.
Next ball is Fuller, straighter and defended up to mid-on. and there is no run. Brathwaite has gone into the 60s, 60 not out from 130 balls. He got 65, and then Ben Stokes got rid of him at the Ageas Bowl. So maybe that's the ploy, that he doesn't like a bit of Stokes.
You're a wicket keeper, Hendo. I mean,
I'm not. Really.
But can you see any reason why you go for 2 slips a gap and then a 4th slip?
Well, no, it's a good. Difficult one. This is flicked into the onside, straight to square leg. There is no run. I suppose in some ways you think you're covering a little bit more space, but you're not really.
No.
Yeah, so it's a tricky one. I'm not sure. I mean, you might sometimes argue that you have 3 slips in a fairly fine gully or a wider gully, in which case there's a big gap as well. I just think you go on gut instinct, don't you? What you feel at the time is right. But I'm not sure they have got this right.
You just think that if you're setting 2 slips, you're expecting the ball to go fairly narrow. There are times when there's no slip and there are 2 gullies because of the pace of the wicket and so on. But what makes you think a ball's going to go to 4th slip and not 3rd slip? Must purely be a guess, and it just gives this opportunity for a flyer to go there.
Curran starts new over, bowls a very tight delivery, which exacts a very tight response from Brooks, who defends it into the onside, and there is no run. 145 for 3 is the score. Sammy Curran is into his 13th over. He's got figures of 2 for 29. We still forget how young Curran is. He's only may have just passed 22 now. Yeah, just gone, and he's doing a good job. We've got 3 slips and no gully.
We have now
for Curran. He's in, bowls to Brooks. Brooks goes back, has plenty of time to turn this on the onside, and does it, as he does most of the things, attractively. Picks up 2 very comfortable runs, and West Indies move to 147. Brooks into double figures.
My last point that I'll make is we've done hundreds, thousands of hours on guerrilla cricket, and I don't ever recall any of us saying, well, it's a good job they had the man there at 4th slip instead of 3rd, because it's leaving that gap which has led to the catch there. And yet it must be 2 or 3 times a series we say the ball's gone through the gap. So it's kind of empirical evidence that builds up. It could, of course, be confirmation bias, but when we've been doing it as long as this, and you see it so often.
Curran in again. Oh, now that one I felt turned Brooks around a little bit. Seemed to be looking to play on the onside initially. Maybe he just waited for it as it cut a little bit, and he guided it in the end reasonably well into the offside. 147.
Now, are we agreed that Sam Curran has been England's? Are we agreed that Sam Curran's been England's most impressive bowler? I mean, he's taken 2 wickets and he had an LBW on Friday night that he didn't review. So if he's England's best bowler, why has he got the most defensive field?
He's in again, bowls full. Oh, he finds his way through Brooks, who drives and really wasn't in control of the bat there, because the bottom hand came off the bottom of the handle, and it went between bat and pad, if anything, I think. Let's have another look at this. Has it gone inside him? Yes, it has. So he's left a bit of a gap there. A bit more swing would have helped. But that was the first full shot we've seen from Shamar Brooks. And it could have brought about his downfall. Sam Curran can't believe it hasn't. And has his hands on his head at the end of his run-up. Here he is again into Brooks. Can he unsettle him? No, he drives pleasantly up to mid-off on this occasion. Broad is there, and there is no run. 1 ball remaining in Curran's 13th over. The deficit now 322. We shall have a change at the end of this over. It will be Knackle, I believe, is going to do ball by ball along with his jingling. And here we go. Am I looking at the right timings for today? Maybe. Oh, he's got an edge! It's gone past where a 3rd slip was until not long ago. Oh, it's just not going right for England. They're getting everything wrong with regards to their tactics and their field placements. To be fair, that might have gone wide of 3rd slip as well, but the point is made. He's gone after the shot. He's got the outside edge. And in fact, it would have probably fallen short of 3rd slip. But yeah, I mean, if you're trying to win these games, you've got to attack a bit more, haven't you? You've got to try and make these things happen. having 2 slips and missing chances is not going to bowl you a team out and make you put them back in again. Anyway, that's the end of the over. It's 151 for 3. Brathwaite 60, Brooks 14, and it's over to Knackle.
Thank you, Hendo. Yeah, as ever with these field placings, you've got to know where you're taking the fielder from. You can't get both of them and want 15 slips for every game. But all of this is to be seen. Ben Stokes is continuing into the right-handed Craig Brathwaite, who defends awkwardly from the crease, really, and there is no run. Broad has been unlucky today, I think. There've been edges that have flown short of slip, past slip. One that was almost caught by that should have been caught by by Ben Stokes rather. But there's plenty happening out there as I welcome John O'Gordon onto a summarising role.
Hello.
Stokes going to get a short ball, which seems to take an age to arrive at Craig Brathwaite, and he ducks under it, and there is no run. Something has tickled Jules.
Well, we've got a certain Joshua De Silva saying England needs John O'Gordon's raw pace.
Josh De Silva tweeting us from the hotel.
Oh, it's from YouTube.
Oh, right.
I did think that texting my first team group that I was on this afternoon might have been a dangerous decision.
In comes Ben Stokes, third ball of his second over of the Test match. The 53rd of the innings is turned into the leg side. Ollie Pope fields at square leg. There is no run. I didn't realise the reserve players were allowed their phones during play.
I think because he's in the extended, he's in the reserve squad, it might be slightly different. I texted him last week and I said, "What's going on at the ground?" He said, "I don't know. I'm in my hotel room." So.
Okay. Interesting wrinkle in the anti-corruption protocol. Stokes into Craig Brathwaite, second 50 of the series for him, and he blocks this semi-solidly back to the bowler. There is no run. Yeah, Craig Brathwaite hadn't scored a 50 in 2 years and has scored 2 in a couple of Test matches here, looking close to back to his nuggety and solid best.
He seems to enjoy playing against us, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, I mean, that said, he didn't do very well against England in the Caribbean last year, so danger of reading too much into this. Actually, the West Indies have played England more than they've played anyone else in the last few years, so these things will happen. Stokes in. This one hoops into Craig Brathwaite, who defends with half a bat. Back to the bowler, there is no run. Brathwaite is not looking totally comfortable, but then he never does.
Thank you for that reaction to Josh's comment, by the way, Jules. I presume from that you don't think I bowl with great pace.
You bowl like an octopus. It's effective.
Oh, are you a little bit Paul Adams, Jono?
Wow. I mean, that. Jules, next fine
last ball of the over from Stokes, swinging in to Craig Brathwaite. Well, interesting to see if this is reverse or orthodox, as the West Indies were getting with the old ball a couple of days ago. End of the over, end of a maiden from Ben Stokes. West Indies 151 for 3, trailing by 318.
It's effective. It's what I was going to say before I'm find a juggle or something. But you seem to get people out. I think they get a little bit bamboozled by your front arm. That's all I'm saying. It's a bit like an octopus that comes down and then it goes.
Can't contribute to this conversation. I've never seen you bowl, Jono.
I've got quite taken aback by that, I'll be honest. Right.
Anyway, back to the cricket.
Relegate your scorer to the twos, can you?
Yeah, we're having a change at the James Anderson end, I believe, with Sam Curran. Sorry, the Statham end, which is where Roston Chase did so well, and where Don Best was bowling from. He changed ends to that end just before lunch, and he is back on, replacing Sammy Curran.
Emerge from the county scene where it rises red. It's Dominic Best, selected for the yellow test, the latest in a long line of sinners who turned out to be rejects.
Jingle's a little bit out of date, and there's one coming through soon, hopefully. We've seen he took the first wicket to fall today. Alzari Joseph popping his second ball straight to Ollie Pope, who took a very casual catch at short leg. He made that look far easier than he had any right to, just grasping it one-handed. I've been calling for Best to go round the wicket because of the consistency of the turn and the fact that you basically can't get an LBW from over the wicket. He is over the wicket. Slip, leg slip and short leg. This is a flatter delivery from Dom Bess. Brooks defends from the crease. There is no run. It burns at slip and Stokes at leg slip. Almost leg dolly. He's a little bit wide and Ollie Pope under the lid at forward short leg. In comes Bess, tosses this up. It's pretty much it's almost a full toss. It's nicely guided out square by Shamar Brooks. Unusually for Bess, there isn't a deep point, and Zach Crawley's not going to cut that off. 4 runs. Yeah, I was expecting deep point to pop up there and cut that off, but instead there was an orthodox cover point. Bess was talking in the first test about deep point being actually an attacking position for him because it forces, it encourages batters to have a little prod outside off stump and open up both edges. In fact, it's Root at first slip, not Rory Burns. That's a full delivery and straight delivery and a good delivery from Dom Bess, forcing Brooks to try and play around his front pad and block to short leg, and there is no run. I'll come to you, Jono, in a second for what you think Bess should do here. There's a cover and a mid off a mid wicket, mid on part way back and a backward square leg. With this big gap at point, Brooks plays this nicely, just drops bat on it and takes a very easy single. Slightly odd field placing.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we were saying before lunch, I wasn't necessarily a huge fan of the idea of bowling round the wicket, but I think it'd be. I think you may be right. It might be a good idea to at least give it a go. Obviously, we saw Joe Root bowling over from round the wicket just before lunch, and I think Bess is undoubtedly going to turn it a lot more than Root, so maybe turn off the strain. Yeah,
still the 3 men around the bat as Bess is in at right arm, still over the wicket. A little bit of turn and bounce as Brathwaite goes back and defends into the offside. There is no run. A bit of awful footwork from Joe Root at slip as he does a couple of step overs and nearly trips himself up. There is no run. Thought I'm going to be banned from playing football. Slip, short leg, leg slip, cover, mid off, mid on, set a little bit back, straightish mid wicket, square leg, a little bit behind square. That's a poor delivery to that field really from Dom Bess. There's no one in the point region. That's outside off stump and it's an easy fiddle for Craig Brathwaite down into the third man region. They come through 4-2. I think that's a poor bit of field placing and poor bowling to that field placing. And Dom Bess has just been milked for a few runs off that over with no risk at all. 158 for 3 of the West Indies, trailed by 311.
So on Twitter, Leah has put in Durham Shalar as being a really lovely ground.
Oh, yeah.
It is absolutely stunning. Pirate Badshaw's with me on Sabina Park. We've got Durbanoki has put it in. So there's a question that was posed by Gary, which was the 3 main people in an event of cricket, so the bowler, the batter and the non-striker batter having the same first 2 letters. So he's asked if Gomes ever bowl to Gower and Gooch. So we've got that question coming through.
Ben Stokes in and strikes Shamar Brooks on the pad, but it hit him above the pad, in fact, on the thigh pad, and Shamar Brooks is quite a tall man, so clearly going over the top of the stumps, and Stokes doesn't try and persuade Joe Root to give him a review. I don't know how much Larry Gomes bowled for the West Indies, a specialist sort of number 4 or 5 batter.
We've got one from our mark, so both from bowling to Border and Boone in the mid-80s Ashes.
Good one. That'll definitely be up there in the late 80s. Stokes in, second ball of the over. Hasn't conceded a run for 8 deliveries, and he's not conceded a run off this one either, as Brooks defends solidly up to Stuart Broad at mid-on. There is no run. I still think England can afford to be patient here and don't need to do anything other than just sort of plug away on a good line and length.
If England did have to bat again, let's say the West Indies were 199 short, would England not just change the batting order and just go out and try and...
I was thinking that overnight as Stokes comes in a full delivery and Brooks defends solidly with the full face of the bat. Back to the bowler, there is no run. I was thinking that. I actually don't think it's the worst thing if England end up batting third and have a 40-minute thrash. Put Butler and Stokes at the top of the order with Curran at 3. and tell them to just go for it for half an hour.
Yeah. Well, they're used to facing the new ball. Even it might always be the second new ball.
Butler's a T20 opener.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad call at all. As Stokes is in, getting a significant in-swing to the right-handed Shamar Brooks, but he's played that beautifully, Shamar Brooks. A little bit full from Ben Stokes trying to get the ball to swing, and that's not a leg side delivery at all, but Brooks has whipped this beautifully through mid-wicket for 4.
My name is Lakhan. My name is Lakhan.
What a shot that is from Shamar Brooks.
He's very nice on the eye, isn't he? Not him necessarily, but the way he plays. He's very nice batsman to watch. Very fluent.
Yeah, the first paragraph of his Cricinfo bio was quite interesting. In full flow, Shamar Brooks is all elegance. He drives mercilessly through the offside. They break off as Stokes comes in to Shamar Brooks, who clips it into the onside. There's no one at orthodox. Well, there is an orthodox mid wicket, but he gets it straight of him and to Stuart Broad, who fields, so they come through for a single. He drives mercilessly through the offside and often finishes his flick standing on one leg. But it took 4 innings in Test before these skills were visible. Shamar Brooks has a Test 100 against Afghanistan in Lucknow, which was the last Test West Indies played before this series. And coming off a good resurgence in first-class cricket, looks reasonably comfortable out there. Craig Brathwaite, who never looks comfortable but is scoring runs for the first time in a couple of years, defends this hurriedly off the back foot up to Stuart Broad. There is no run, 4 runs off the over, and it's 163 for 3.
So Elixir of Azazel has said, who would win, a team consisting exclusively of players who make things happen, or a team consisting exclusively of players who have something about them? So that's a question to a Gorilla Cricket there. Derek Willis has come in and said if England's not going to have a 3rd or 4th slip-in, maybe they could put him on the leg side, since that's where they've been bowling lately. There's been some discussion with regards to a tweet earlier from Jay Grover about is Scooby into dogging or shagging. Ba-boom. And as the critique of John O'Gordon's bowling continues,
as Best continues over the wicket, and Brooks with that little forward press and then defends solidly on the bounce with the turn to short leg.
Josh has come back in again on YouTube and said for Jono's bowling, think of Jonathan Trott bowling and take about 15 miles per hour, and that's Jono.
Best bowling from mid-crease from over the wicket. Brooks plays a slightly wafty looking on-drive flicky thing up to Sam Curran at mid-on, and there is no run. I have to say, of all of the part-time dibbly-dobblers, watching Jonathan Trott bowl depressed me the most.
Brilliant. I can't believe that someone who's now become an international cricketer is giving me abuse over the internet.
While there's a test match going on. This is a little bit fuller and flatter from Bess, and blocks back to Shamar Brooks. There is no run. Breaking off from the exploits of John O'Gordon. You made a good point before lunch, Jono, that Bess is bowling on occasion just a little bit too full, and it's a little bit easy to block. I'll come back to that after this delivery from Dom Bess, bowling with the mirrored sunglasses on. That's tempting Brooks into a drive, but he drives it nicely, and again, with no one anywhere near point, Zach Crawley was never going to be able to catch up with that. 4 more quite easy runs to Shamar Brooks.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That's fine. He's tossed that up and he's drawn an attacking stroke, but in general, I think he does occasionally just not get that dip, which means that he's more dangerous when batters are looking to defend.
I think I saw an interview with him. It really impressed me on interview last week.
Good. He has gone round the wicket to Shamar Brooks, who opens himself out nicely. And again, there's no one anywhere near point, and Bess is bowling outside off stump, and Brooks just angles the face of the bat through point, and they've come through for a ludicrously easy 3 runs. Brooks moves to 31. 170 for 3.
That he actually sees that deep point position as an attacking option
rather
than a defensive one. So it does strike me as strange that he's dispensed with that idea altogether. A week later.
And now he's back over the wicket to Brathwaite, and there's no one at point. I think they may have overestimated how much the ball is turning. That's much straighter from Bess, and blocked back to the bowler. There is no run. 56 overs gone, 170 for 3. Was nearly trailed by just 299, so now just 100 away from avoiding the follow-on. Bess isn't giving himself a chance with this field.
No, it does strike me as strange. I think the Ollie Pope wicket, I know as it transpires, it was only a clipping leg stump, but I think that, the way that looked to the naked eye in real time, I think it may have caused people to think that the wicket probably turning. Look, that looked like very quick turn, if that makes sense. Whereas Bessie's bowling with slow turn.
Yeah, I mean, Roston Chase is taller, so there's a bit more bounce and perhaps a little bit more action on the ball. I think it's little tweaks. Graham Swan had this problem in his first iteration, his first couple of tours. Remember that West Indies tour in 2009 where England got rolled at Sabina Park, and then West Indies produced incredibly flat pitches for the rest of the series. And Swan didn't quite have the rip and the dip and the drift that made him so dangerous a couple of years later. And so it was very easy for the West Indies tail-enders to just block him on the front foot. Don Bess is young in his Test career and he'll learn. But England need that. That's a horrible delivery from Ben Stokes, which was far more trouble to Just Buttler than it was to Shamar Brooks down the leg side, and Buttler is surprised by it and defends it down in front of him. There is no run. Jules is laughing at something or other.
It'd be a real shame for our social media to just completely go down in the next 40 minutes.
No, this is great. If anyone else wants to go for it, please do. This is quite fun.
Oh, it's interestingly, England have put in the sort of James Taylor deep short leg in position, who I'm pretty sure is Ollie Pope. But there's no slip. Interesting. There's a gully sort of force. Oh, and Brooks has ducked into a bouncer there. That didn't get up from Ben Stokes, and Brooks trying to get out of the way has ducked into it and met it full on and glanced it on the bounce to short leg. Presumably this will draw some attention from the West Indies physio. He's got himself into a horrible position there. It's actually hit him on the back of the neck on the stem guard. Ooh. That is how not to play a bouncer. Oh God, he's ducked his head and opened up everything at the back of the neck. Oh, that's not nice.
I think that's hit him at the top of the shoulder, hasn't it?
Maybe even, yeah. He's got a little bit lucky there. What will Ben Stokes follow that bouncer with? He follows it with another short ball, which is easier for Stokes to play. Oh, it's a no ball as Stokes oversteps. And after that, there is quite an interesting field placing.
Wide.
Ben Stokes has a long stop. You see, the third man is incredibly fine. The fine leg is very fine. There's a gully and a short leg. I think Stokes is just going to try and bounce Shamar Brooks now. Yeah. And there's an orthodox short leg. Ben Stokes thinks he's Neil Wagner, back of a length and forced off the back foot by Brooks into the offside. There is no run.
Angry and slightly ginger.
And from New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly.
Although actually Neil Wagner's born in South Africa, so that doesn't work on any level.
Josh is now moved to abusing me personally over text.
That's less fun, Josh, if you're listening. As Stokes comes in, continuing this Stokesy line attack to Shamar Brooks. That's short down the leg side, and it's easy for Brooks to shoulder arm and let it pass through to Buttler. There is no run. So this is obviously some kind of plan that's been concocted in the innings break. It seems a little bit extreme, but I suppose it's something. And there's also a deep square leg and a man sort of hovering Stuart Broad at sort of halfway back to the cow corner boundary. Now orthodox square leg up in the circle is moving to leg gully, and deep square leg is moving in front of square, and now Stokes is going round the wicket. Now this is proper body line.
Very strange. Yeah, I mean, it's almost accepting defeat that bowling proper channels isn't going to get him out.
Stokes goes round the wicket and bowls the most obvious short ball in the world to Shamar Brooks, who clips it down to long leg. There is no run. I don't know if this pitch is quick enough to do that every ball. I'm not saying it's not worth trying for a little while, but as well, let me mix it up a little bit. Might have been leg buys to Shamar Brooks. The score hasn't updated on screen, so I can't really tell you. No, it was runs off the bat, and Craig Brathwaite is on strike, despite what Sky's graphics are telling you. As Stokes continues around the wicket, and this is forced off the back foot through a yawning gap at mid-wicket, and they come through for a single. So this funky experiment is not proving successful as yet. I don't think Stokes has quite got the radar right.
Bit of it, almost a last resort. I mean, I don't know. Almost seems like we've run out of ideas a little bit. I mean, we've not seen Bess since
Yeah.
lunch.
Best has been bowling from the other end.
He has.
That is the end of the over, by the way. Stokes conceding runs hither and thither in that over. He's gone for 12 off his 4. West Indies 173 for 3, trail by 296, just 97 more to avoid the follow-on.
On YouTube also, George Pope has written in and said Denny would get wickets on this deck. He's a good bowler.
No, he wouldn't. No, he isn't.
There's obviously a Kent fan there. And he did say County, but Treadwell too.
Oh, God.
And Trigger. That must be a Kent fan there with George Pope. But he does also say it's to confuse the batsmen to keep moving the fielders around.
Yeah, that sometimes works. The leg slip has gone out to that point region, actually, and to reinforce that region. So it's a slip and a short leg and a ring of 3 on the offside. This is tossed up from Bess over the wicket to Brathwaite, who pushes to cover, and there is no run. As Bess comes in again. Stokes it is at slip. 2 full and easy for Brathwaite to block back to the bowler. There is no run. It's actually not so much that Bess is bowling 2 full, it's that he's not getting the dip, which means that Brathwaite is having to make a decision about whether to come forward or go back. And it's just those little tweaks as a spin bowler. That's got a nice shape on it, though, drawing Brathwaite into a stretching defensive stroke, and he pushes into the offside. There is no run.
Oh, I don't know if you saw over the lunch break on the coverage, Knuckle. They were showing the impact points from Brathwaite, and it looked like he was using the depth of his crease very well against.
That's flatter, and Brathwaite seems to have had more trouble with that delivery. He's playing that round his front pad, and on the bounce to short leg it goes. No, it didn't, because I was busy trying to facilitate Toby Radford taking the piss out of Dave Brooks' batting. So we got the slip in a short leg. The man on the 45, mid-wicket, mid-onset, partway back to the boundary, and a deep square leg. That's a good shot from Brathwaite. He sort of flat backs it almost through cover with a real whip of the wrist. Zach Crawley has to retreat towards the cover boundary to field. They come through for a single.
Yeah, it looked like he was using the depth of his crease really well, and I think that's why it maybe better than some of the England players were, and so that's almost forced Bess into bowling an area that he wouldn't have ideally been.
Oh, in fact, they came back for 2, so Brathwaite will still be on strike. That's a short ball, which was I'm not entirely sure that was intentional from Dom Bess dragging that down. I mean, there is a square leg, so I suppose you could say bowling for being caught at square leg. Brathwaite, surprised, pulls it to that square leg all along the ground. There is no run. End of the over, 175 for 3. 65 to Craig Brathwaite, 32 to Shamar Brooks.
So YouTube has turned into something of a berating Jono and Kent supporters club. So we've also got a guy called Stephen Boyd who's written in and said England crying out for a bit of Mark Elam with his wobblers. There's definitely some Kent love going on there.
Who next? Darren Stevens? Actually, Darren Stevens would probably do quite well in some English conditions in Test cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. Subtle Knife has said, I for one approve of sledging of any guerrilla cricket commentators. Well done, Joshua.
Stokes is continuing. We'll see if he continues with the Stokesy line. Can't see the fielders yet. In fact, we're seeing he's bowling around the wicket, so I assume so to Shamar Brooks. That's a good bouncer, which has Brooks in a bit of trouble. I think he that got into his blind spot a little bit in that sort of right armpit region, and he sort of jumps and ducks simultaneously at this, and there is no run yet. And Stokes is also bowling cross seam, a bit like Liam Plunkett, I guess, to try and scuff up the ball to get some reverse.
Yeah, but also if you bowl cross seamers, if it hits the seam, then it'll generally lift. But then if it's one of the shinier sides, then it'll generally skid on.
It'll skid on, yeah. Liam Plunkett bowled that brilliantly for England in one-day cricket over the last few years. There's a couple of men catching and a couple of men back. That's a bouncer which Brooks ducks about a week before it was bowled, and it goes through to the keeper. There is no run. So it's a Dom Bess set maybe 5 yards in off the forwards square leg boundary. There's that man very fine at third man, actually going a little bit wider now, is Zach Crawley. I can't tell who that is down at long leg, or fine leg, really. I have to say, if this is a trap and Brooks falls into it, it will not be a particularly well disguised trap. As Stokes comes in, short ball, which is too easy for Brooks to duck, and he lets it pass harmlessly through to Butler. There is no run. I guess the change-up then is bowling very full outside off stump and having Brooks caught on the crease and prodding at one and opening up either the edge to gully or the keeper or the drag on.
Yeah, the surprise full one. I don't know how many. obviously we haven't seen on the coverage. We don't know if any of them have been called above shoulder height yet, because if he can just continue with the short balls, obviously, other than the 2 in the over.
That is a short ball which Brooks doesn't play particularly well. It's very jumpy, and I don't think that got onto him as quickly. Maybe it did just, as you say, Jono, hit the shiny side and not quite come through as high as Brooks was expecting, and he fiddles this round the corner to leg gully. There is no run. Yeah, I don't think anything's been over shoulder height yet. This isn't that quick a pitch. So yes, we've got the widest slip, the gully, the backward point, the mid-off, who I guess could possibly come in somewhere catching, the short leg, the man hovering back at mid-wicket in square leg, and the leg gully in the long leg, and Brooks has no idea where that's gone. He looks over towards square leg as the ball bounces down off his glove into silly point. There is no run. You have to wonder, if he's bowling this length, what is the point in the mid-off?
Yeah. And the square leg also looks like he's standing right in front of the deep square leg. I mean, he hasn't shown any sign of hooking yet.
No, but I suppose if he keeps getting peppered, he might want to have a flay at one, and I suppose the idea is that he's not going to be fully committed to the stroke. Joe Root getting funky. That's on a length, and Brooks can just punch it into the onside and very eagerly takes a single to get himself off strike for the last ball of the over. Brathwaite onto 65. Interesting to see how they bowl at the much more measured Craig Brathwaite, who's on 65 off 148 and has, barring a few iffy defensive shots, played quite well in this innings, more fluent than I've seen him for some time. Doesn't look as though the field is changing particularly. We can see Zach Crawley is still there, very fine deep third man, yet same field, and Brathwaite jumps outside the line of the ball and lets it pass over the top of the middle stump. And over a bowling to plan from Ben Stokes, and moderately successful. West Indies 177 for 3, need 93 more to avoid the follow-on.
So Leah on Twitter has added in another ground to underrated test grounds for scenery. She says, I also like to add the Kotla in Delhi in a perverse way. Something about that collapsing multi-storey car park look. That might be one to have a look at a little bit later. I will be in the sea, and the Communist has also tweeted in to say England Dob part-time bowler 11. So they've got Atherton, Cook, Vaughan, Root, Peterson, Trott, Collingwood, Michael Burns as a wicketkeeper, Dermot Reeve, David Cappell and Mark Ealing. So any comments on England Dob part-time 11, or indeed any other Cricket Nation Dob part-time 11?
Best continuing over the wicket to Shamar Brooks, and this is a little bit flatter, and Stokes claps at slip as Brooks prods into the offside. There is no right. I mean, New Zealand were the kings of Dob in the early 90s with 4 absolute dibbly-dobblers. Gavin Larson, Chris Harris, Willie Watson, and I always forget the other one. As Bess is in. This one turns a little bit from the main part of the pitch, and Brooks defends kind of from the crease into the leg side. There is no run. They were called by someone Dibbly, Dobbly, Wibbly and Wobbly.
I can't believe my octopus-like action has led to Dob 11s in world cricket.
Bess is in, third ball of the over. Tossed up, and Brooks is definitely trying to get forward, but that's a better length from Dom Bess, so he wasn't quite able to get forward as much, and it comes off the inside part of the bat into the leg side. There is no run. I think Bess has just got to wheel away on that line of length for a little while. There is the man kind of on the 45, quite square in case Brooks wants to have a sweep at this. This is flatter and doesn't turn, and Brooks defends from the crease into the offside. There is no run. And if he just bowls a few dot balls, bowls a couple of maidens, England can slowly tighten up the field here to Shamar Brooks. I think this is a better
straight line.
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of on off stump rather than outside off stump. A less traditionally attacking line, as it were. That's more outside off stump, and it doesn't really turn, but comes in with the angle. And Brooks defends from the crease. Butler takes it one hand, one bounce, and there is no run. It's the Dread Pirate Rory. Oh, in fact, it's Chris Wokes on the 45, as it were. As Bess is in. Shamar Brooks has a little flick at that. It's aerial for a little bit, but there's no one at square leg. Sibley is out there on the boundary, so they come through for a single. A good over from Dom Bess, I think, though. Only the one run off it, and it's an interesting challenge for the West Indies batters, with Bess wheeling away just on off stump, and Stokes trying to smash them in the ribs. West Indies 170 for 3, 90 more to avoid the follow-on. What have we got on those social medias?
Yeah, the Kent cricket analysis team have also added in to say, remember Brook Smith in Australia putting a leg slip in?
Yes. I don't think it worked.
Which game was that, Knuckle?
In Australia, then it must have been the last Ashes series where Smith scored a bucket load of runs. I do remember, you might remember this, Jules, because I think you were scoring it. Martin Guptill taking an absolute blinder at leg slip in the World Cup to dismiss Steve Smith.
Yeah, at Lord's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That was and it got kind of completely cast aside just because Australia beat New Zealand so convincingly. But it was an absolute blinder of
It was one of the best catches of the World Cup, up there with the Stokes and Cottrell catches.
Yeah, absolutely was.
What have we got on social media in any form, including abuse? We should have some Crick Tracker comments, actually.
The abuse is slightly piped down, which is a bit unfortunate, so we'll welcome that back. Anderson Whitehall on YouTube has said
What a name.
Craig should make 100 on this pitch. I'm having a little bit of trouble with Crick Tracker, so just bear with me. Hopefully we'll get that back soon. And Twitter is... Hey, we've got Twitter back. Sorry, it went down for me there as well. But Leo said, is India the only current team where part-time Dogshot 11 would be captained by their actual current captain? A little bit harsh.
Oh, God, yeah. Virat Kohli's bowling is pretty... it's quite depressing at times.
The Jersey Jingler said no boycott in the part-time bowler 11. He may be a wanker, but bowling with your cap on backwards is quality. And Hostile Spells has said, here's a poll we all need to vote on. Let's have a look. And it says Sam Curran, and the question is, makes things happen, has something about him, a bit of both, but he's no Stuart Binney though. So if any of those 4 voting categories you want to come in on, then jump on our Twitter feed and you can go and vote.
Yeah, we've just retweeted that. Should say it's drinks in the elongated second session of day 4 of the second test match. You're listening to Guerrilla Cricket's coverage of the West Indies Tour of England in association with Hot Mic, the only reliable way to sync our live ball-by-ball, never-ever geo-block commentary to your television pictures. Go to the Hot Mic app on iOS or Android, download it, sign up with the code GC Radio, and you'll help your viewing and listening experience, and you'll help us out as well. The West Indies are 178-3, having put England into bat. They made 469 for 9. West Indies trail by 291 runs and need 92 to avoid the follow-on. And in this passage of play, you got Knuckle Pandey on ball-by-ball, and John O'Gordon summarising, and Jules Farman conveying abuse from social media to Jono. Stokes round the wicket, continuing this odd short ball line of attack to Brooks and Brathwaite. Brooks lets it go through to the keeper. There is no run. Shamar Brooks is on 34 of 57. Craig Brathwaite is 65 of 149. So yes, that field, we got the slip, the quite square gully, almost a backward point. Short leg just in front of the square, a man at leg gully, a fine leg, very fine, third man very fine, a little bit in off the boundary, mid wicket, and a man back at square leg, that's down the leg side, and Brooks has a little fiddle at that, and Butler takes down the leg side, no bat or glove, there is no run.
Obviously, I haven't. This is my first day on this test. What were the feelings around the side that England have picked? So obviously, no Anderson. Obviously, Archer can't play, but then, what's the reasoning for not picking Wood? We haven't really got anybody with genuine pace on what is historically the quickest wicket in the country.
To be fair, Wood did not bowl very well at Southampton, and I'm sure it's difficult. As Stokes comes in again, that's forced off the back foot by Brooks, but straight to Dom Sibley, I think that is at backward point. There is no run. Frustrating for Brooks that he failed to miss the field. Yeah, Wood didn't bowl very well at Southampton, and it's hard for anyone to do back-to-back test matches, but we know what Mark Wood is like. Also, I think that Mark Wood was left out of the squad before the news broke about Archer.
Okay, right. Yeah,
so that might be part of it as well. Archer would definitely have been playing this test match had he... well, we know what happened. As Stokes is in short, and Brooks defends this nicely enough, bottom hand off the bat and drops it in front of him. There is no run.
I wonder if his missus feels guilty.
to be fair, we don't actually know who I've heard of conflicting reports about whether anyone was at home, who was at home, who he saw. We do know that whoever he saw has tested negative for COVID in the time since, so it all seems to be all right. And yeah, the England players have been running around Jofra. They've all been playing Call of Duty with him, trying to make sure that doesn't get completely isolated from the squad, which is good to see. As Stokes comes in with this leg side dominant field, Brooks drops his head, which probably isn't the best way to play a bouncer, as the pain between his shoulder blades from earlier will attest to, and it passes through to Butler. There is no run. We'll have a change in 5 minutes or so. Gary Naylor is going to come on to ball by ball. We'll have Dave Brook reading your tweets, and Jono is going to continue summarising.
And wearing flag.
Perhaps, yes.
It's calmed down a lot.
After the end of the next over, we'll have that change. Stokes in last ball of this, and Brooks defends off the back foot, drops it down in front of him, and it rolls past the leg stump. Stokes has a little word, I think probably just to gee himself up as much as anything. Decent over from Stokes, bowling to his plan and field. Brooks on 34, Brathwaite on 65, West Indies 178 for 3. A maiden for Stokes, in fact. West Indies still need 92 to avoid the follow-on.
It's one of those. It shows you how fit Stokes must be, because he effectively bowled 3 or 4 overs of bumper after bumper, and they take it out of you. I'm sure. I mean, I haven't bowled a bumper since I was about 15. I think quite difficult at 50 k's an hour. But it shows, how much fight he's got and how much fire there is in him.
We've seen Stokes bowl those very long spells. Remember in Cape Town on a very hot day, bowled about 12 overs in a row. Stokes is incredibly fit. I mean, he's had to be told to stop training by England a few times because he pushes himself so hard. Another bottom hand wristy flick from Craig Brathwaite into the onside. Rory Burns does very well diving across it. Straightest mid wicket. There is no run. A little bit loose from Brathwaite on that occasion, but safe enough. Slip short leg. Man on the 45 quite square. Man hovering off the mid wicket boundary. Orthodox mid wicket quite straight, and a mid on set halfway, sent a little bit back. That turns from Bess from straight. Brathwaite jabs it into the leg side. I suppose the advantage of these two being quite solid is that there was no leg slip. Not that he would have caught it anyway. Fielded at the man on the 45 at backward square leg. There is no run in again, and this very nearly carries to Ollie Pope. Good ball from Bess. A little bit of dip, a little bit of drift outside off stump. Brathwaite getting himself into an awkward position and gloves it. That could have gone anywhere. It just drops in front of him. There is no run, but Bess is in the game here. Pope's in the game as Bess comes in. Fourth ball of the over. Craig Brathwaite briefly thinking that he's Gordon Greenwich, and doing so to good effect. The front leg went up, and the ball was flapped into the with a pull shot into the leg side. Dom Sibley comes running around from mid wicket, dives, falls on top of the ball, but manages to prevent the boundary, and they come through for 2.
I don't know. I mean, just thinking it's a while since we've seen a chance, like any kind of genuine chance. I don't really feel like we've created very much since lunch. I know I missed the first 40 minutes after lunch, but I don't know if there was much going on there.
There was plenty, flashes through the slips and so forth. Again, Bess has got a deep point this time, his position that he was talking about, that you and I were talking about, Jono, and it's pushed to him by Shamar Brooks. They come through for a single, but there was that gap between bat and pad as Brooks was trying to push into the onside, so it does open up both edges. Last ball of this over coming up, the 62nd. Bess's 16th, 1 for 48 here. Last ball of my stint for now. Bess is in fullish, flattish delivery, and Brooks defends into the onside. There is no run. 182 for 3, 288 more to avoid the follow-on. I'll come off mic. Jules will finally come off mic after a Stokesian spell, really, and we'll say hello to David Brook and to Gary Naylor.
Afternoon, David.
David.
Gary, are you with us? Gary's off mute. There we go, Gary.
I hope I am now.
Yes, you are, mate.
Yeah. I'm hoping that my feed is stable. It was for the previous over, but not for the last one. So the next ball goes through to the keeper, and there is no run.
Oh no, Gary, can you hear me okay?
We do now, David. Yeah.
Excellent. In that case, the whole of the Gorilla listenership can hear me as well. Good afternoon to you all.
David, I may need you to jump in and do a bit of ball by ball for me here if this really is as jerky as it is at the moment. And I apologise to listeners for that. Technology is always very tricky for me. So Brathwaite's batted well for his 68, had a little bit of luck, and Ben Stokes continues with this round the wicket attack into the body. One remembers Malcolm Marshall back in the day doing this, but he rides that, does Shamar Brooks, and there is no run.
Hasn't Shamar Brooks batted well? As you know, I think he played some really nice shots, and he's really given this innings some impetus as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, he looks like he's made for Test cricket. He looks at ease at the crease there as Stokes is in, and I'm going to have to give up on the ball by ball.
Look, Gary, we'll swap
them, I'm afraid.
If we swap roles, if you can take the tweets, and I'll do the ball by ball, because I think you're about 10 seconds behind on the feed. But should be okay for the tweets. Yeah, I think we got up to Durban Oak, and we're going to hear. Yeah,
what I'll do is I'll have to read tweets.
Here's Stokes getting ready to come in.
Overs, so
round the wicket to Brooks, who looks to flick that one away, doesn't make any contact. Sorry, Gary.
I think Gary
so I'll probably have to do them.
Yeah, we're losing Gary a bit. Hopefully you can hear me. We've got an issue with some, I wonder if it's climatic conditions, because I had a few issues with the video feed this morning. Hopefully, Jono, you're able to hear me, and everyone else. Great. Here's Stokes coming in. He's still bowling this round the wicket attack to Shamar Brooks. Bangs it in, and Brooks on his toes, plays it off the back foot. Yeah, I've liked this innings from Shamar Brooks, because if he'd gone, in quick order, then England would have had a sniff at getting the West Indies out before the follow-on figure. But Brooks played, he put back, connected with some nice boundaries, and actually, could be playing a vital innings here.
I think he's played really well, David. I couldn't agree anymore. I think he's looked really good. He's an exciting player to watch as well, which is refreshing. He puts the bad ball away. And
here's Stokes to him now, and he's flicked that one nicely. There's the man down at long leg. He's just going to get a single. It's Sam Curran down there, so he goes on to 35. Brathwaite's on 68. West Indies 183 for 3. Who's going to be doing the tweets?
I think Gary will probably come back and do that in a minute, so we might just have to wibble for a minute.
I know that Gits and Gratz has been in touch and are saying that Jono, he says, despite not being the only one on a green screen background, is the only gorilla looking like he's at a press conference. He's expecting you to either cry over a sandpaper incident or start talking about seagulls over trawlers. He's a great gorilla, though, says Grits and Gratz.
Very, very kind, thank you. I mean, the way that my bowling's been taking some heat over the last 40 minutes or so, especially from, I don't know if you were listening, Dave, but...
Here's Bess and Brooks to short leg, no run.
My great friend Joshua De Silva, who's obviously part of the West Indies touring party, has been referring to my bowling as that of Jonathan Trott. When he I was like, it's probably the most critical thing I've ever heard on my
Here's Root, and forward defensive goes Brooks, and no run. Yeah, Jonathan Trott, we have to look up his first class bowling record. At least he's taking some first class wickets, I imagine. Here's Bess to Brooks now. Brooks goes for a nice drive, finds the gap. No, he doesn't. He places it wide of extra cover, but not wide of the deeply set mid-off. They're able to take a single. He goes to 37. So this is the old Wimbledonians, is it, Jono?
Yeah, so Josh obviously was our overseas in 2017 and has gone on to do great things in West Indies cricket, and he's obviously part of the reserve squad in England at the minute. But yeah, he referred to my bowling as like that of Jonathan Trott.
Nice. Root and Brathwaite plays forward defensively. No run.
Julia then responded to that by saying, I look like an octopus when bowling, which I've never heard before.
Here's Bess. He's shade bowls, and that keeps a bit low, and That's just played out to short leg and there's no run. Well, there's only one thing worse than being talked about, Jono, that's not being talked about. I mean, to be mentioned by a West Indies player, it's very nice. 5 wickets in Test matches. Thanks, Jules. Root, and that's played nicely by Brathwaite with a bit of wrist to that. He drove through the ball, quick hands, and a shot that any old Wimbledonian would have been proud of goes for a boundary.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm jumping in on social media while Gary is sorting things out. We understand that Wi-Fi issues are intervening. Chris Charlie Paul, the artist formerly known as Save Withybush Hospital, now known as I Will Be in the Sea and the Communists, has sent in a guerrilla cricket drinking game. Bear swears, 1 finger. Knuckle reels off an obscure fact, 1 finger. Hendo loses his shit at England batting, 2 fingers. Jules talks about cricket without boundaries, 3 fingers. Nestle Boy loses a bet, down drink. Josh Robinson insults people tweeting in, drink as much as him. Well, we will have Nestle's later.
Stokes to Brooks goes on the back foot, plays to backward of square and there's no run. Great drinking game. Yeah.
We won't have Josh Robinson for this test, but we will have Nestle later.
Yes, Nestle Boy's doing the late shift today. He'll be coming in after his round of golf at the golf club.
Very nice.
I think it's someone less likely to be in the golf clubhouse would be Nestle. I don't know what he'll be doing on a Sunday, but he's joining us a little bit late. Maybe he's been down the B&Q. Here's Stokes round the wicket. Brooks not having anything to do with that. Ducks underneath it.
Doesn't seem to be working this plan, does it, at the minute? Neil Wagner's obviously the best exponent of this in world cricket, isn't he? This round the wicket, kind of short.
Wagner's a bit of a freak in terms of how well he bowls his bounces and the awkward bounce that he can get from any angle. I don't think Brooks has looked particularly comfortable against it. He doesn't seem to be playing it quite as well as he would like.
Here's Stokes trying again. Here, around the wicket again. It's short.
That's a good
on
shot.
The back foot. Nice shot by Brooks. You must have heard Junakul. Times that nicely. Splits the field between the two. There's a long chase. It's going to go all the way to the boundary.
It's a much easier line for Shamar Brooks angling if it's outside off stump. It's those ones in at the body that are the issue. That was a nice shot from Shamar Brooks, which he played one-handed.
Well, we'll have a healthy disagreement in the box because I think Brooks has handled himself very well with Stokes. Getting out of trouble when he's been bowling short, hasn't really fallen into the trap that's been set for him or looked like falling into it. And as you say, when Stokes veers his line, he was able to pounce on that with the boundary. Here's Stokes again, leg side, and again that's let through by Brooks down the leg stump, and there's no run. He's moved on to 41. Pleasant runs. Brathwaite on 72, and West Indies creeping towards that follow-on target for 270. They're on 192 for 3, 270 to avoid the follow-on, I should say, which will probably, but not inevitably,
78
put the match. Put the match at out of the reach of England.
I'm still not sure I agree with that.
Well, that's what I say. That's why I called it a disagreement. Here's Stokes bowls, and Brooks covers up, plays it. That's the whole beauty of cricket. And Knuckle, we can both have different views. It doesn't mean that either of us has a monopoly on the truth.
Oh no,
disagree.
No, indeed. The general consensus seems to be, and I understand why, that England can only win this game if they make West Indies follow on. But England bowling the West Indies out for a deficit of 160, say, or 130, and then having a thrash tonight is not and then giving themselves tomorrow to bowl the West Indies out is not the worst idea.
Oh no, absolutely. I thought we were still talking about Brooks. His Stokes bowls, and you'd had some ammunition there because Brooks didn't play that one well. So that's 15 all between me and Knuckle. New balls, please. 192 for 3. End of that over. Brathwaite 72, Brooks 41.
Correct line from Stokes. In at that armpit, which is difficult for anyone to play.
We saw that as well. David, as someone who obviously knows the West Indian cricket scene as well as you, the thing with Brooks, obviously he was lauded as someone who was going to do incredibly well and captain the the under-19s, I believe, and what have you. What is there any particular reason or well-known reason for why it did take him as long as it did to break into the Test side and to do as well the first class as he needed to?
Well, not enough runs at regional level is the short answer. He never scored enough runs to force himself in the team. It was only on the West Indies A tour of India that no lesser judge than Rahul Dravid picked him out for special condemnation, special praise, I should say, not condemnation. Well, one asked the question, why isn't this guy in the West Indies team? When you've got someone like Rahul Dravid on your side, things can start to happen. Brook's got a chance, and of course he got his century in the Test series against Afghanistan, which was the last Test that West Indies played. So, I don't want to call him the Joe Denley of the West Indies team. I'm only saying that in the sense that he was given his chance at 31, age 31, 32. Rather than being, sort of one of the youngsters on the block, but he's taken it, and he's always been an attractive batsman to watch. As you say, he was, he was in that West Indies national setup, but he has been a fixture of the Barbados team and is highly regarded there, but never really forced his way in by sheer weight of runs. Even in this last first class season, he only averaged in the high 20s. But because he was the incumbent with that century, he got to get the first go in this. Here comes Wokes now as change of bowling, and that's played to Brathwaite. You've got a jingle for Wokes.
He's on Instagram, and he's a Twitter fan. On the Ashes tour, not Ben Stokes, but he'll have to do.
Still enjoy that jingle. Here's Wokes with his. He's grown a beard since that jingle was first released, and he squares up Brathwaite, and Brathwaite gets the thickest edge out to cover point, and there's no run. He's on 72 and Brook's on 41. 192 for 3. Yeah, West Indies with strength in depth on the bench. They've got a squad of 25 over here, and as you say, Josh De Silva, he didn't named in the reserves, but he's done everything to make a case for inclusion. Poised to take the place maybe of Shai Hope. Here's Wokes bowls, and Brathwaite just plays that to short mid wicket, and there's no run.
Yeah, like you say, I think he got 156, didn't he, opening the batting in the second warm-up game, then kept, and then batted at 5 in the second innings, and I think got 56 now in that. So he's certainly put himself in the right position. I was watching one of the Sky podcasts with Darren Sammy, and he was saying that if Campbell hadn't been selected, then Josh would seem to have been the man to take his spot. But
Wokes, Brathwaite patiently plays that out onto the onside, and there's no run.
Yeah, obviously being fit then, Campbell, and so Josh has had to. He's obviously still training hard, still working hard, and let's say hopeful of a chance in the next Test at Old Trafford starting next week, I believe.
I mean, to me, West Indies, they should use the fact that they've got this huge squad here, and not stick religiously to squad players and reserve players. They should choose from the 25 for the next Test. Here's Wokes bowls. Oh, a little paddle shot round the corner from Brathwaite, and it's gone down to long leg, where Sibley does a stiff piece of fielding and throws the ball in, and Brathwaite goes on to the heights of 73. Brook's on 41, 193 for 3. Yeah, I think with Josh, have a warm-up match. Might as well take notice of it. Josh De Silva looks in great form. Let's get him in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've got to give these guys a chance, haven't you, I guess?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I think it's critical of West Indies for choosing an unchanged team, because they've got so much strength in depth. Here's Wokes bowls, and Brooks covers up. There's no run, particularly on the bowling front. They've gone in with Gabriel and Roach, who are not fully firing, and he could have gone with Shamar Holder or Ray Reefer, and they've got O'Shane Thomas in the reserve squad. End of that over, 193 for 3.
A lot of people are talking highly of Shamar Holder, aren't they? Again, quite a young player.
Yeah.
Josh has also spoken very highly. I think one of his friends is Vasbert Drake's son, Dominic, I think was part of that regional 50 over competition West Indies emerging players side.
Yeah, I think there's two Bajans in front of Drake's for me. One is Shamar Holder and the other one is Keon Harding. They're both in this reserve. Shamar Holder's in the main squad, and Keon Harding is a reserve. They're both, I think, great prospects. Shamar Holder is something in the sort of Joel Garner, and Courtney Ambrose mode, I should say, not really in Joel Garner. And that's a hook shot from Brathwaite, and he goes down to for a single there. It's a Bess who fields. He goes on to 74. Shamar Holder is got a good cricketing brain and puts it in the right areas, and he enjoys the comparison with a young Courtney Ambrose.
Okay, well, high praise.
High praise indeed. Yeah, Keon Harding, I was pleased to see him make the team. He was left out of Barbados's regional 4-day squad and answered back in no uncertain terms with a good performance for the emerging players 11 in the Super 50. Stokes around the wicket, and Brooks gets up on his toes and plays that one down. Useful partnership this, 194 for 3. Though just to clarify my point before, I think if West Indies save the follow-on, they reduce the chances of England winning this match, but they don't eliminate it. I said it not inevitable by any means, but I think the odds against England would increase if they do manage to save the follow-on. Yes, Shamar Holder did well against India A. Got a few of the current Indian Test team out. Stokes bowling round the wicket now to Brooks, and no contact from Brooks. Tries to do a paddle shot. It's acrobatically taken by Joss Butler. But yeah, going back to what you're saying, Jono, this plan, I've seen enough of it. I think that's changed now. What do you think?
It feels like they've run out of ideas a little bit. And I think that's one criticism of Root's captaincy is, if you're going to, as you say, these lads are batting very well, and England need to force the issue. Like, they've tried this round the wicket short approach and it's not worked, so we have to now try something else.
Stokes round the wicket again, and Brooks able to just bow underneath that one. He's hitting Stokes going for that sort of middle of the wicket position. What would you do now then, Jono? Who would you turn to?
Well, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, Brooks and Brathwaite are two. They're genuine batters, so they don't mind facing bumpers. Like if it's 9, 10, 11 or whatever, they're the guys who get shaken up by the short stuff a lot more so than the batters. So they're actually thinking, well, this is perfect for us, isn't it?
Stokes to Brooks again. Groundhog Day. It's short. Again, yeah. Brooks ducks underneath it. No problem.
They'll sway out of the way of these all day. And actually, I think this way of this kind of attack is actually only hurting England, because if we're not creating chances, which is what we need to do to take another 17 wickets in the 4.5 sessions, make them play. That's what we need to be doing. I think best route.
Last ball of this over from Stokes again. It's short, and Brooks is able to plenty of time on the back foot play it down. So yes, Brooks 41, Brathwaite 74, 194 for 3 West Indies. Yes, Jono, time for a change. Who would you'd throw the ball to Don Bess?
Well, yeah, I think Bess, Root's not a bad option, but I think we need to be bowling at the stumps to create stuff. I thought Broad, although he conceded a few boundaries straight after lunch along with Curran, at least they're bowling at the stumps, and you've got LBW, you've got bowled, you've got caught behind, you've got a number of different modes of dismissal. Whereas at the minute, these lads are going, well, all we need to do is get underneath them. We don't need to even need to consider taking that hook shot on, because we're ahead of the game. Leah says on Twitter, why don't Jono and David observe social distancing? They're obviously sitting right next to each other. Just look at the background. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah, we've gone for the corporate look, Leah. Wokes played out nicely by Brathwaite. Finds the gap to the right of extra cover, and they trot through for a single.
Yeah. Also, Mike...
Leah, can I just ask Leah whether she got her desecrated bird? Whether you have consumed it or whether you're still desecrating it?
So then we've got Mike Mealwood at Guerrilla Cricket. Should England suddenly make a few breakthroughs and find themselves in tonight? Are we advocating Universe, Joss and Stokes to open?
Wokes to Brooks, who covers up, plays that down to short extra. Wokes does his own fielding, no run.
I think that's, I think that's the only way to go, because then if we were to find ourselves batting tonight for an hour or 40 minutes or whatever, let's say we're 200 ahead. I don't think anybody's going to score 300 on it in a day to win the Test match tomorrow, and I think England quite easily control the game. But I think, you'd have to go out with a real aggressive intent.
Wokes with aggressive intent, but to no avail. There's an angle bat from Brooks. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. It's gone all the way down to the third man boundary. In control of that, Jono. Ben Stokes had to jump over the advertising hoardings there in pursuit of that.
I think he never gives up, Stokes, does he? Right until the last second, he probably thinks he can get there, and he's trying to drag it back.
Wokes 0 for 33, looking for his first wicket. Bowles. Brooks looking for his first half century, covers up and plays that one down. I think I'm correct in that. His first Test innings.
This is already better for me, though, David. I'm not sure whether you agree, but at least LBW's now in play, Bowles in play, Nikoff is in play, caught behind. Just firing short balls at the shoulder from around the wicket, I think you're really limiting yourself to the kind of dismissals that you're opening yourselves up to.
Well, I agree, particularly when both batsmen are set. Fair enough, have a go. If they've got a breakthrough, have a go at Blackwood with that perhaps, or have a go at Chase. If Brooks does get this half century, it'll be his third 50 plus score. He did 50 versus India and Jamaica and 111 in that one-off Test in India against Afghanistan. He covers up and plays that one down. This is an important innings for Brooks as well, because as you say, there is competition for places now in the West Indies side, with Blackwood having cemented his place. The West Indies will be looking to try and find room for Cornwall, if you'll forgive the pun, in the next Test.
Very good.
There could be a batsman that has to make way. Wokes bowls, and that's beaten Brooks outside the off stump. He definitely played at that, and it made your point there, Jono, that it brings the whole court behind into play. End of the over.
We've had another a tweet that we've put out as Guerrilla Cricket about the umpires disinfecting the ball. So Dom Sibley forgot about the saliva ban. Obviously in recreational cricket they've said no saliva or sweat. I was at fielding at mid-off yesterday. Second ball of our fielding innings. It's second nature for me. I put my fingers in my mouth and then remembered just before I put them on the ball. But it's so difficult, and obviously I think there's a slight leniency for these lads. I think you get 2 warnings and then it's 5 penalty runs for any if they get caught after that. But I think it's just so ingrained as something that people do. It's incredibly difficult not to do it.
Well, they've ignored us, Jono. Stokes is going to continue with the same line of attack. Oh, and he's got him! He's got a caught and bowled there. He's getting straight back to him. So he's proved us wrong. He worked against Brathwaite, who's gone. He looked to turn it away, he got a leading edge, and he's out. Caught and bowled Stokes for 75.
Got him! Why did he do that? Unbelievable!
That's really
great. Yeah, indeed. Why did he do that? He was looking set, and it was slightly fuller, wasn't as short, and it's got some steepling bounce. It got big on Brathwaite, didn't it? And he looked to turn it away and got a leading edge back. So 199 for 4, the vital breakthrough.
Just lucky that we were texting each other off air then, David, wasn't it? Saying, maybe we'll give Stokes one more with this. Yeah, I still, commentators curse that, isn't it? I still think we've gone with that plan for too long. Some people say, now it's justified, but
hold on, you're sticking to your guns, even though it's got the breakthrough. I admire that.
I still think that we've been doing it for too long. Yes, it may have worked, but I think we should.
What's that got to do with it?
We've been going 2 overs too many with this attack. I think Best should have been bowling by now. I think Joe Root should have bowled more than 1 over. I think the 1 over he had before lunch. It's obvious we've seen turn right through the test match.
I think Stokes is looking at you now, Jono, and giving you the full. Well, I don't know what the gesture would be. He'd be pointing at you and saying, he'd be looking. Yeah, he'd be pointing to his name on the back of the shirt to say, "You can never dismiss me, Ben Stokes. I will always do something to get England back into a game." So it's brought this man in as the new batsman.
Ruston cheese and what do you get? Cricketer, a village in Somerset. I did some research and well was done. So now that he's a man, that son of a gun.
Chase. He's had a little time to rest, courtesy of that day rained off yesterday, because he had that marathon bowling stint. He's playing his 34th Test match, averages 31, 1779 runs, high score 137 not out. So second wicket in this session. Before that, you'd have said West Indies. It was going to be West Indies session. It scored 81 runs, but that's the second wicket to fall. It was indeed Ruston Chase's longest bowl of his first-class career. So if that's a part-time bowler, I wouldn't want to do a full-time shift.
Yeah, it's almost like people don't rate him as a spinner, but I mean, he certainly performed well against England at 8 in the tour.
Absolutely, and I think he was getting a bit more purchase than Bess, actually. Stokes, this is short. He continues with the same line of attack to the new batsman, who is Ruston Chase, who lets that go across him. Yeah, we were having that debate earlier, Jono. Well, I was trying to get it going. It wasn't really a debate, it was a monologue. Bess versus Chase, because Chase to me gets higher and gets more bounce, and therefore is a more dangerous proposition.
Yeah, he's a tall man. I think he's probably bowled better areas than Don Bess, if we're honest. I think Bess is young and a lot younger than Chase.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him up against Swan, but against Bess. Here's Stokes. Again, it's short. This time it's down the leg side, so no trouble there for Ruston Chase, who can be pretty confident what he's going to get. He can predict what he's going to get from Stokes the rest of this over, that's for sure. But yeah, when we looked at the first class Test match figures of Chase and Bess, and there wasn't too much in it really. Ruston Chase done a lot more bowling, and that's he's not in the tradition of he's not no Lance Gibbs. But you could put him in the sort of Roger Harper, David Holford category. Yeah. He's better than Hooper, that's for sure. Here's Stokes, and Chase goes on the back foot. There's a little trap been set to him, and it's Joe Root at sort of leg slip, short, fine, and kept him interested because there's 2 men there for the short ball trap that was dug in by Stokes, and kept it down pretty well. But keeping those close fielders interested.
So if I'm Ben Stokes now, or I'm Ben Stokes' skipper, I'm saying, right, there's 2 balls left in the over, go back over, bowl him a short one from over the wicket, and then go Yorker, last ball of the over.
Stokes round the wicket, it's short, he doesn't take your instructions, or your advice, I should say. You're not yet in a position to give instructions to England's vice-captain, but you gave him some advice, which he patently ignored. Stokes puts a hand through his ample locks. I never thought I'd say that. But he's another one who's got a lockdown hair style.
I just think this is too easy for him to predict what's coming.
One ball left of this over. Let's see if we've both predicted it. Is it going to be another short one? In comes Stokes. Yes, it is. And Chase goes onto the back foot and just manages to get under the dive of, was that Sibley? And they take 2 runs. It looked a bit late, but it was indeed Sibley who is doing the Shannon Gabriel impersonation in the field again. He failed to stop that, went underneath his dive. It's gone for 2 runs. And I've just been given some sensational news, which I didn't know. And that is, are you sure about this, Knackle? That Ben Stokes has had a hair transplant. He's gone the Graham Gooch, Phil Tufnell,
Shane Warne.
Shane Warne.
Michael
Let's call them all out. Michael, let's be having you. Michael Vaughan. Let's be having you.
I don't know if Trotty didn't, did he?
No, Jonathan Trott decided to go the bald route, the shaven head route. Ben Stokes has had a hair transplant. Well, would you believe it? End of that over.
MJ Nosta has tweeted in saying, just in relation to the Dom Sibley incident, did he call attention to it himself? That'll count in his favour, which is right. Yeah, I certainly appreciate that.
This is the saliva on the ball. Yeah.
Saliva on the ball. Yeah.
Well, one man who doesn't need a hair transplant is Chris Wokes. He's certainly got a few years left without having to worry about that. He would be possibly in need of the Gorilla Cricket beard oil, which is moved into prototype stage. And Wokes bowls, and that's covered up there. Brooks, who's still there, of course, on 45. Possibly missed the first. Was that the second ball of the over?
Second, yeah. Both.
Oh, I missed one. Dot.
Well,
for those of you keeping your scorebooks intact, the first ball was a dot ball. You ever done much scoring, Jono? Were you always, because we had two scorers on this morning, Jules and Annie, both done a lot of scoring. You always straight in as a player, or did you have to do some scoring as well? Wokes bowls, and that's beaten Brooks. Gets a bit of movement off a length. Brooks rather groping for that one. It's gone through to Butler.
As a youngster, I scored for my local club, Rugby St Mark's, up in outside Manchester, and got paid $5 a day for 90 overs scoring. But obviously, this is, I don't know, early 90s or whatever. Whereas
you were lucky.
Oh, Jules!
We used to dream of getting $5. Jules get clipped round the ear if we didn't score properly.
Jules Farman charges us a fortune.
Yes, Wokes, and this time Brooks is more confident there, and he gets that in the centre of his bat. He plays it out for no run. But you don't strike me, Jono, as the sort of guy that would take a scorebook to a game.
No.
You've never. I thought so. Never taken a scorebook. You've never scored at a cricket match unless you're. So you'd only score if you were being paid.
Well, I wouldn't score at a cricket match because there's too much time away from the bar.
It's Wokes. Oh, that's cut away by Brooks pleasantly. That's going to go flashing away like a tracer bullet.
That went like a tracer bullet.
Knuckle, you're right on the ball there, man. It really was very sweetly timed. It shot off the bat, and it's gone down just sort of square of the wicket. Behind square of the wicket, but it was a pleasant shot. Brooks has gone on to 49. He's looking for to pass 50 for the third time in his belated Test match career. Came into this side of West Indies side comparatively late in his career after 10 years at regional level. Wokes bowls to him. Is that going to be his 50? He's got a bat on that, has he? It's gone down the leg side. Wait for the umpire's signal. It's going to be leg by, so he's going to have to wait a bit longer, but it has gone to the boundary.
Leg buys.
1, 2, 3, 4.
A little bit of swing there from Chris Wokes. Hello everybody, I'm Knuckle. I'm back on mic again, having hurriedly wolfed down a ready-made.
Thank you for keeping us up to date with your movements, which I trust are regular.
Thank you. No one needed to hear that.
Now, tea time guest Knuckle, Barry Wilkinson, coming in from Barbados. We need to send him a link. Do you have his email?
I don't know that I do.
Normally I would be able to do that, but I've had some technical issues this morning.
Oh no, yes I do.
Oh good. And Stokes comes into bowl now to Chase. Gets Chase jumping. Moral victory there for Stokes, because certainly going to stop Chase from just lumbering onto the front foot. He had to jump out the way of that one.
This has been a hell of a long spell from... he's in his 11th over now, and I think at least 7 of them he's been bowling Stokesy line. Roston Chase is a very tall man, and it's not always easy for tall guys to get out of the way of short deliveries, particularly on a pitch where it's not flying up over his head.
Stokes has got the new man in his sights, keeping this round the wicket attack going again into Chase's body. and he gets a bat on that. It just drops to his feet. The short leg fielder does the tidying up. I think it's Pope in there as the junior player under the lid. 209 for 4 West Indies. They're 260 behind, so by my maths that means another 61 to make to avoid having to follow on. And so West Indies will be pleased with this session, which is an extended session, goes on till 3:55, so we've still got 20 minutes. And Stokes coming into bowl now around the wicket, another short one, and this time it's down the leg side, so he's not managing to get them in at the body consistently. There's still 2 or 3 going down leg, but he has just got the breakthrough, getting Craig Brathwaite caught and bowled. So Stokes will continue with this, I think, for a while.
Yeah, slightly odd end to what I thought was probably Craig Brathwaite's best innings in about 2 years.
Yes, he'd be disappointed to get out there. Oh, he did have a sort of brush, didn't he? In the 60s, he looked a bit vulnerable as well. Stokes around the wicket to chase, ducks underneath it. No run.
I wasn't sure, Knuckle, whether it stopped in the pitch a little bit. It looked like he'd turned the face and obviously got a leading edge back to the bowler. I don't know whether it's the wicket's starting to slow up. I know, obviously.
It might have been that cross seamer that you were talking about earlier, one that just hits the seamer, maybe. I think Dave is right. I think he misjudged the bounce of it. He was expecting it to just be an easy block, and it gets big on him and you flinch, and you only need to make a mistake once.
Absolutely.
Stokes coming around the wicket again. Ooh. And he squares up Chase. That goes into his midriff, and I was going to say ample midriff, but that does a disservice to Roston Chase, who's lean and mean. But it does go into his body and then drops down.
That was off the splice of the bat.
Oh, splice of the bat, I beg your pardon. So off the splice, but in the end it dropped fairly harmlessly down, unless only a silly point would have been interested in that. Short leg, Ollie Pope holds his hand out like Oliver asking for more. Wasn't going on that side of the wicket. Here's Stokes, still no sign of fatigue from him. He bowls just as quick as ever, and that's across Chase. And there's no run, so that's West Indies the end of that over. 201 for 4.
Let's go to those social medias, Jono.
I was just going to drop you a message actually. Twitter seems to have gone quiet, so I'm not sure if we've lost people or whether it's just not working for me. I know Jules was on some.
There's a few coming. There's a few coming in, for sure. So yeah. Subtle Knife. An honest Dom is the only Dom one should ever consider, which is a nice little PSA for everyone out there. Muttley, Ben Stokes has had a hair transplant. Is he sick of being a ginger? That's very harsh, Muttley. And Linux Leo says, time to flog my marketing idea for your beard oil again. Yes, go for it.
I think it's a great idea, Leo. It's an idea that I think has got real traction. Here's Wokes, and that's tickled nicely by Brooks. That's going to be his half century. It's gone down to long leg. He's going to come back for 2. Well played, Shamar Brooks. 51.
Yeah, a third test 50 for Shamar Brooks, first 50 plus score, I should say. One of them was 100. 51 off 96 balls, and he's played very nicely.
50 runs, your 50 runs. Well done, well done, well done, well done. 50 runs, your 50 runs. The job is only just begun.
Scoring far more fluently than pretty much anyone else has managed, with the exception of Butler on this pitch.
I'll tell you, this is I didn't see Shamar Brooks' innings against Afghanistan. This has been a good one. He comes only half forward to that, though. He's got to be careful he doesn't go straight after his half century there. He just plays that out, and it's no run. So yeah, 51. This is the best I've seen of Shamar Brooks. In fact, when I watched him, and I did a couple of seasons, Jono, commentating on the 4-day tournament in the West Indies, and Brooks was coming in quite late in the Barbados setup. He was batting like 6 or 7. So it's good to see him go all the way back now into the Test team, and he plays that one down. So this is an important innings for Brooks, especially Shai Hope missing out again, getting out disappointingly in the 20s. Shai Hope's got to be under his place in the team. Surely has to be under some pressure. I doubt whether the England selectors would have stuck with someone for so long at Test level. Although, as we said, Shai Hope has been prolific in the one-day setup. It's Wokes. That's nicely off the back foot by Brooks, showing his class there. There's a big chase for Bess. He's going to pull this in front of the boundary. They've gone for 2 and they'll settle for 2. So another nice shot from Brooks. Anything just short of a length, and he sort of just caresses it, doesn't he, onto the offside. He's very much a touch player, a bit like yourself, Jono.
I'm not sure many would refer to me as that, Dave. That's very kind of you. It's obviously a cross-seam delivery from Chris Wokes. I don't know if that's something that they're trying to utilise now to try and see if they can get any to hold up or the skid on. Something that they're trying to use as an attack.
There's a man very close at sitting it off. That's down the leg side. Brooks goes for the flick, doesn't make contact, straight to Butler. Yeah, so Ruti has positioned himself in a kind of silly mid-off.
Yeah,
or in Monty Python terms, slightly silly mid-off.
We call that on Guerrilla Cricket the off Hayden in honour of one of the very few people ever to be caught there.
Yeah.
Which was, of course, by accident.
Strauss, was it not? Caught?
I can't remember who took the catch. It was off Matthew Hoggard.
Hoggard caught Strauss. That position. Yeah, first ball of the innings, wasn't it?
Wokes to complete his over here. He's still looking for his first wicket, and it won't come from that because Brooks is very solidly behind that. So in the over that saw Brooks go to his half century, he's on 53. Chase on 2. West Indies are 2-1-3 for 4.
I think just to go back to the point you were making about Shai Hope, David, it's interesting, I think, that sometimes certain players get either pigeonholed as someone that can be dropped or almost someone that's they're revered so much that they almost become undroppable just because of the way that the perception is about them as a player. And I wonder if Shai Hope's got that. I wonder if just the selectors or whatever just obviously just like him so much for whatever reason, whether it's subconscious rather than consciously looking at his stats, because obviously he's not been doing that well for a little while. But he's just not a name that ever comes up when they're talking about a replacement.
Well, it's partly been strength in depth, which the West Indies have now, which they haven't had for a little while. I don't know where David's gone while I was trying to talk to him. Very rude. So the West Indies have more strength in depth now. Darren Bravo and Shimron Hetmeyer aren't on this tour, but they appear to have a functional batting lineup. And also, twin hundreds, winning a test match for England and his one-day international form, it all sort of combines. But I do agree with you, David, that he looks the most vulnerable when Bravo and Hetmeyer come back in, or if they want to change the balance of the batting lineup and play an extra bowler. Anyway, we do have a change. I was wondering whether this guy was going to be saved for the new ball. Instead, he's bowling with the O ball round the wicket.
What would make Broad walk?
It is indeed Stuart Broad round the wicket. He's going to follow the Stokes plan into the body of Chase, who gets a single just behind square. Stokes has to do the fielding. I was thinking you were going to continue with the jingle there, Knuckle. You caught me out.
Oh, it did, just very quietly.
Oh, very quietly. Yeah. I'm sorry, I just can't get over this Pat Cash look of Stuart Broad. I just can't take him seriously this afternoon. I'm sorry. Here he comes now, round the wicket to Brooks underneath. Brooks ducks underneath for the 50th time this afternoon. He ducks underneath it. I'd like to see one of those Sky Sports type pitch maps where the ball has been aimed in this afternoon session, because I think you'll find that more than about 70-80% have been in the middle of the wicket.
I mean, certainly from the seamers. It's interesting because they were bowling exaggeratedly full at the start of the session.
Just a reminder, our tea time guest Barry Wilkinson joining us from Barbados, one of the top broadcasters over there. Broad bowls underneath goes Brooks ducks underneath that. From Barbados, he'll be give us a bit more gen on Shamar Brooks, and indeed a lot of the other, not just Barbados players, but some of the other players waiting in the wings. Barry covers all the cricket in the Caribbean. No ball-by-ball coverage though in the region.
Apart from us.
Apart from ours. So no official ball-by-ball, just the superior unofficial broad bowls. That isn't going to trouble Brooks at all. It's so wide that it doesn't get anywhere near it. 84 mph. Broad 0 for 53 in his comeback Test match. He said he was going to make a statement after that emotional outburst during the first Test. Hasn't quite lived up to his hype here.
No,
Johnny.
I'm sorry. Do you want to go for it?
Yeah, difficult, isn't it? I think that I really like the interview he gave on Sky Sports. That was very honest.
He comes around the wicket. Again, it's dug in short. But yeah, don't you think though, if you give an interview like that, when you do come back into the team, you have to make a bigger impression than he's made today?
Yeah, but I don't think he's trying any less hard than... I just think that the England management have completely misjudged both pitches. I think that, you know, although this isn't probably a pitch that would suit Mark Wood either, but I think that as the Aegeus pitch turned out, Broad would have been a much better option.
Broad round the wicket. Again, it's short. Again, Brooks ducks underneath it. And that's the end of a fairly, I'm afraid to say, innocuous over from Stuart Broad, 2-1-4-4.
Do you remember there was a period a few years ago, maybe probably 5 years ago now, actually possibly even more, it's been that long, when Broad was the enforcer, where they asked Stuart Broad to bang the ball in short all the time, because he's very tall, obviously, so a couple of miles an hour quicker back then, and it really didn't suit him. It didn't really work for him, and it was denying England the best of Stuart Broad. Look, this is just a tactic to get to the new ball.
Yeah.
Well, Ollie Pope's warming up now. Maybe he's just having a stretch because he's been standing at short leg all day.
Ollie Pope has never bowled in professional cricket.
By the way, Johnny, do you want the good news or bad news about your Josh De Silva? Jono said earlier, Josh De Silva, one of the West Indies reserve players, used to play with Jono and compared his bowling to Jonathan Trott. The good news is Jonathan Trott took 5 wickets in first-class cricket, Jono, so it's no bad thing. The bad news is they were 80 runs apiece.
Well, yeah.
Change of bowling.
Yeah, change of bowling at the Statham end, looks like, and it's spin.
Emerge from the county seat where it rises red. It's Dominic Bess.
Yes, it is to Chase, who plays the first ball out onto the leg side, and there is no run. Dom Bess, he's bowled, his figures are 1 for 53 today. He bowls this one, it's quite flat, and it's played out to the leg side by Chase, who's on 3. Made an unhurried start here, Roston Chase, and indeed what is no urgent imperative for West Indies to hurry. Best bowls, and that's flicked away nicely by Chase. Just going to go down to the man on the fence who jogs in, and Sibley out there, who's been hidden out the way on the deep square leg boundary, and they take a single.
I'm still a bit perturbed by the Jonathan Trott reference. I've often been widely referred to as the Ian Austin of league cricket.
Oh, well, Ian Austin was pretty decent, wasn't he? And that's played back to Best for no run. Let's think about some of the worst occasional bowlers that we've seen of all time. Worst occasional bowlers. Your suggestions.
I remember
please.
Alex Hales bowling an absolutely horrific over in the Test match.
That was poor. Best, that's over-pitched, and it's nicely played away by Brooks with that flick again. Sibley's out there, looking a little slightly less stiff, to be fair to him, than he did. Maybe he's loosening up a bit out there, and he keeps it to 2. Brooks goes on to 55.
I think the Ian Austin reference was always more based on build than skill level. To be honest.
Best in his shades. Rolls that one, again, quite fast drilled in. They think about a single, it's driven straight to extra cover. There's not one there. Chase says no to Brooks. Yeah, so we're looking at batsmen who bowled occasionally in Test cricket or first-class cricket and don't really look very much at all. Any suggestions, let us know. Is Jono a Jonathan Trott, or is he an Ian Austin? 2-17 for 4.
Yeah, we'll go to some social media, because for some reason it doesn't appear to be coming up for anybody else. So yeah, Linux Leo Wicket Witch says, Gorilla Cricket presents Silverback, the fur oil for the discerning gorilla. Very, very good. Gibson Grat says that he designed a range of beard care for boots a couple of years back for grizzly beards called Tea Tree Beard Oil for Grizzly Beards, and it's got photos of bears on it, long before he was aware of the bear. So it's a
wow. And before he was aware of Grizzly Adams.
Yeah, very good.
Chase to Broad, continuing with his enforce around the wicket, turned away by Chase. He's interested in 2 here, and he turns and he's going to get 2 because the man at square legs had to do the fielding, and he's gone on to 6.
Yeah,
not actually for the awkwardly, probably dreadful bowlers. Chris Adams was must have bowled in first class, but was never in any great shape, was he?
Never saw him at Test level. We were spared that.
He focused in one day or so, didn't he?
Oh, we'll have to look that one up, Jono. Quite possibly. Broad. Again, it's short down the leg side, no run. Jeff Boycott, of course, he got better, didn't he, as time went on, and bowled in his cap. Bowled okay. Alistair Cook was poor. He's taken a few, like 2 or 3 wickets, I think.
One,
in Test match.
famously only one.
Only one, famously.
With an average of 6, I think. Ishant Sharma caught down the leg side in a dead Test match. Chris Adams took 1 Test wicket at 59.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at 59. I'm surprised he got that much bowling. He's only played a couple of Tests.
Yeah, he bowled in 2 innings.
Oh, we must have been short of bowlers if Chris Adams turned his arm over. He didn't even bowl for Sussex. Broad bowls and Chase tries to take evasive action, but that does come off his body, and they've gone down for. Well, is that going to be a leg bye? Yes, he was taking evasive action, so it is indeed a leg bye.
Yeah, the 2 Tests he bowled in, he only played that tour of South Africa in 1999-2000.
I wonder why.
Well, he bowled 13 overs in the second innings at Durban and 7 in the first innings at Cape Town. His wicket came at Durban, and it was that's why South Africa made 572 for 7 in their second innings.
That'll explain it. Let's turn to Grizzly and get a breakthrough that we were looking for. Yeah, who else can bowl? Yeah, has anyone ever asked you that when you play and the captain comes up and says, "Do you bowl?" Do I bowl? Look in the book, mate. It happens to me all the time.
His wicket was Mark Boucher, so not too bad.
Well, yeah. Broad. And that's a decent ball, but it's evaded Butler. He took evasive action. Did he get something on it? It's gone down to the fine leg boundary. The question is that... yes, it is indeed one of these.
Glove, yeah.
It was gloved down just out of the reach of Butler. It has to go down as a chance, but didn't get a hand on it. But I think Jack Russell would have poached that one, Knackle.
Maybe. I mean, it's just died under his glove. Tough.
What did you say? Johnny Bairstow would have taken?
No, I said it's just
controversial.
No, Ben Folks might have. It just died as it was getting to him and passed under his glove.
Broad. That one's fired across Brooks, who goes down onto one knee and escorts it past into the hands of Butler. So could be the one that got away. It would have been a tough chance, but maybe that's the sort of thing that needs to be pouched at this level of the game.
That would have been a very excellent catch. It's a half chance, I think, for Joss Butler. Yeah. We on Twitter have termed this round the wicket attack from Stuart Broad Broady line, which Lennox Lear is a fan of. But By the Min Cricket says Sammy line seems less likely.
Here's Broad, but he's gone over the wicket, and Brooks covers up and plays defensively, and there's no run.
We've got one more. Probably get time for one more over before tea.
That'd be best, will it? Yeah, I think.
Yes, I'd imagine so, unless Root wants to get funky again. The umpires are having a chat about something. Michael Goff is wandering towards... Oh no, he's just wandering into position. Yes, Dom Bess is going to get one more over in.
Indeed, one more over, and I'm just getting the message out to Bridgetown, Barbados, where we're going to have a word with the view from the West Indies, when Barry Wilkinson is going to give us a view at tea time. So stay tuned for that to get the West Indian perspective on what's been going on. Dom Bess will bowl the last over before tea. He's got a slip, a leg slip, and a short leg. They all crouch down expectantly. But that's played away with a nice little flick by Chase, and no run there. He's on 6, Brooks on 59. So Brooks will be happy with his afternoon's work. He came in at the fall of Alzari Joseph. He was the first wicket to fall today, and then we've had Craig Brathwaite Here's Bress, and that's played up to deepish mid on, and Chase goes through for a single. So Chase goes down to non-strikers, and I think he'll be happy to take his gloves off and watch the next 4 balls from Brooks before tea. And the man's gone back onto long on. Here's Bess. Brooks wants a single, but as I say, Chase is happy to stay down the non-strikers end. There was clearly one there, Jono.
Absolutely, yeah. You can tell that Brooks is looking at Chase with a nice smile at his face. You can,
when you're trying to save a test match, one there is a relative term.
45 more West Indies need to avoid the follow-on. Best that's really fired in down the leg side, and there's no one. Is Dom Best the best spinner that England have got at the moment? He's not in the Graham Swan category, but that's unfair to make that comparison.
Yeah, it's very early in his career.
I'd like to have seen Jack Leach given it. Best bowls, and that's pleasantly stroked by Chase, and by Brooks, I should say, and even Chase has to accept the single there. So leaving Chase with 1 ball to face before tea, and so we'll look to see whether our guest
Barry is in the house.
Barry is in the house, so we're going to bring on the big man from the Caribbean. Barry Wilkinson is going to join us after this ball. It's flicked away nicely by Roston Chase. There's going to be an easy single for him to complete, well, I think what was West Indies' session. West Indies 227 for 4, Chase on 8, Brooks on 60. West Indies session, we think, Jono.
Yeah, without question. I think they're in a very strong position now. Obviously, the longer that this West Indies first innings goes on, the game's just falling away from England. Unless there's something miraculous happens over the next 4 sessions, you'd be certainly looking at a draw, and then England are going into the 3rd test having to win it to tie the series. So the West Indian lads have come over here in difficult circumstances, but have applied themselves fantastically well so far, you have to admit.
Yeah, let's go through the card. So John Campbell was first to go. That was last night. LBW to Sam Curran for 12 off 34. Alzari Joseph annoyed England to good effect this morning, and actually played some quite nice shots. The Night Watchman, who was eventually caught at short leg off Don Bess's second ball of the morning for 32 off 52. Shai Hope looked comfortable-ish for a little while, but then got stuck and got himself out, as he has done so many times in the last few years. Caught by Josh Butler off a Sam Curran off cutter for 25 off 71. There was a good partnership then between Craig Brathwaite and Shamar Brooks before Brathwaite was done by a marathon spell of Stokesy line, probably about 10 overs into Ben Stokes banging the ball in halfway down from round the wicket. Caught and bowled by Ben Stokes for 75 of 165. Shamar Brooks has gone to his 3rd test match 50+ score. He's on 60 not out of 115. He's played very nicely, and he's been joined by Roston Chase, who's 8 not out of 21. There have been 15 extras, although 11 of them have been leg buys, so that's a little bit misleading, and at least a few of those have been off the top of the head. And the bowling figures: Stuart Broad, 16 overs, 3 maidens, none for 59. I think it's bowled better than those figures would suggest. Chris Woke, 16 overs, 6 maidens, none for 41. Tidy, not yet penetrative. See what he does with the second new ball, which is only 4 overs away. Sam Curran, 13 overs, 3 maidens, 2 for 35. Don Best, 19 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 59. Of course, has had a lot of work to do on this wearing pitch. Joe Root, just the 1 over for 1. And Ben Stokes, huge effort for him again. 11 overs, all in a row, 3 maidens, 1 for 22. We say thank you to Jono. You'll be joining us on Ball by Ball, in fact, after tea, and if he starts his video in time, we say hello to Barbados and hello to Barry Wilkinson via David Brook, because Barry needs to unmute himself.
Yes, Barry needs to unmute himself. If you spent any time in the Caribbean, you would be familiar with this man, Barry Wilkinson, on TV and radio, line and length.